Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. We're on time. Uh, so it seems there's an significant interest no, on this session. Just to give you a background, by the way, I'm Boots Herrera of Ateneo Art Gallery. Of course, this ArtSpeak is in line with the exhibition we have at the third floor, featuring three installation projects by Mark Orozco Justiniani. The idea for this conversation actually started in a way years ago when Mark and I were discussing a possible project for Ateneo Art Gallery. And he requested he thought it would be interesting to have a conversation with a physicist and a philosopher, pero hindi sabay. During the opening, one of our benefactors and friends suggested to have this session with a physicist. Of course, si Father Jett ang naisip namin. And then sabi ko, philosopher na rin. Isabay na. And the reason why we have Dr. Momok Barbaza. Okay, so the setup of the session, Mark will give a brief overview of his projects, and then he has prepared questions for our guests, and then that will start the conversation. Okay, so maybe just I'll make the introduction for all three na no para tuloy-tuloy na tayo mamaya. So as you all know, Mark Justiniani is a visual artist whose practice span different media and concerns. No, he often is identified by his associations with artist initiatives such as Abay or Artista ng Bayan, Sanggawa, and Saling Pusa Art Group. And currently, he spearheads projects with Joy Malyari through Aninagan Art Initiatives and Tungtong Alon Art Foundation. Father Jose Remmon Villarin SJ, or Father Jett, as we call him, is the chair of the physics department, a Jesuit priest, as we all know, a scientist and educator of the Ateneo de Manila University, and the 30th president from 2010 to 2020. He's currently the chair of the physics department. Director of the Manila Observatory. He has shared with me some projects that they have monitoring the atmosphere. So, siguro magandang later on tatanungin ko, why do you see the northern lights in other parts of the world that are not at the north? No? Parang ano daw yun eh, hindi magandang sign. Anyway, so our third guest is, or the second guest is Dr. Remmon Barbaza, or Momok, we call him. He's an associate professor at the Department of Philosophy here in Ateneo. He earned his bachelor's degree in UP Diliman in linguistics, master's degree in philosophy here in Ateneo, and doctorate in philosophy at the Munich School of Philosophy. His dissertation centered on Heidegger's concept of dwelling, and his research interests include language, translation, technology, and the environment. And outside of the academe, he's bikes. He's a cyclist, an advocate of safe cycling. Tama ba yun? Okay, so we can begin the session with Mark sharing his slides.
Simulan natin dito sa isang sinulat ko nung, I think, mga 22 years old ako. It's for a show sa Antipolo with the Saling Pusa group. No? Tapos, sinulat ko lang doon, door opens, strong yellowish light strikes the middle of the place circle. Strong light becomes weak outside the place circle. Door Where we entered closest, eyes, eyes, eyes on the object, where the strong light strikes. Eyes around the circle of the play pointing to only one direction. Eyes focus where light is strongest. Light reflects, light glares, light enters our eyes, light penetrates, light disappears. Dito ko lang napansin, matagal na pala yung parang preoccupation ko dyan sa light. Ano? Ayaw mag-play. Pwede mo- Ay, video dapat yan eh. Of a spinning coin. No? Meron tayong dalawang discs na wooden discs. May image tayo ng spinning coin. No? Nakasakay siya sa wooden disc. Ang title niya ay Revolutions. No? Ayaw mag-play. Okay. Sayang. So, paano kaya yung iba natin? So, anyway, actually, mukha siyang umiikot. No? Pero sa taas, may ilaw na nakatapat. And then, sayang, ano? May slit siya. Actually, there are 12 coins. And nag-flicker yung light. Tapos may illusion siya na umiikot siya. No? So, it also talks about the individual and the collective. No? The individual is composed of the many, and the many is composed of many individuals. No? I hope yung ibang videos natin mag-play. Hindi rin, ano? So ito, may work ako ng nakasulat. Nababasa ba dyan? Tayo na kinupkup sa sinag ng dilim. We who are nurtured or embraced in the glow or radiance of darkness. So anong darkness? Anong ilaw? Ibig sabihin ba, pag hindi natin nakikita ay wala ng ilaw? But there are different kinds of light. There's gamma rays, microwaves, radio waves, ultraviolet light, infrared. Yung iba niyan, nakikita ng ahas, yung nakikita ng mga bubuyog, pero hindi natin nakikita. No? Kasi limited lang tayo sa the color spectrum. Yung Roy G. Biv na napakaliit lang sa light spectrum. And kung alam na natin nga ganun, ibig sabihin, filtered na yung paningin natin sa mundo. Di ba? So what does the world look like? Kasi incomplete ang tingin natin sa mundo eh. And parang alam na natin ito ngayon, dati may mga questions pa about, di ba yung phenomena. The world as it is, kung kay Kant, and the world as it appears. So how we experience the world visually is the world as it appears. Phenomena. Na. So balik tayo rito sa, tayo na kinupkup sa sinag ng dilim. It's made of metal na may hugis na ganyan. Pero sa gilid, kung pupunta ka sa gilid, makikita mo na yung word na takip silim. Ano ba ang takip silim? Dusk. Nasa kalagitnaan siya ng liwanag at dilim. At tayo ay kinupkop hindi lamang sa liwanag, kundi pati sa iba pang mga light waves at iba pang mga mysterious things na hindi natin alam sa buhay. No? That's why we invented mathematics, we invented words. No? There was a time na na ang philosophers sila rin ng mga scientists. Kaya meron tayo ngayon mga dalubhasa sa ganung fields. pag nakagawa na ng code kasi ang mga beings, no, kagaya ng tao, kagaya ng letters and numbers, we tend to think na meron tayong tools para ma-extend pa ang ating nalalaman. At totoo naman, di ba? Totoo naman. Ang tanong naaabot ba natin ang tinatawag nating katotohanan? Ano? So, ito, work ko to noong 2008 yata. Nililista ko lang yung mga words na interesting kagaya nito. Ili-ili ni ina. Ili-ili is a palindrome din actually. Ili-ili ni ina. Ang ina pag binaliktad mo ay ani. Ina-ani, ala-ala. Ang ala-ala rin is a palindrome. May mga words diyan kagaya ng alapaap, ulap, lupa. Sa mga familiar sa mga talks ko, madalas ko i-mention ng word na lupa at ulap. Lupa is the earth, di ba? And ulap is the heavens or clouds. Incidentally, they share the same letters. How do you say to look up in Tagalog? Tingala. No? Say tingala backwards. Kunwari, galing ka rito. Tingala. Say it backwards. Langit. Langit. So, sinadya ba to? Tingin mo sa taas, makikita mo, alapaap, no? The heavens. Alapaap. So, alapaap. Baliktarin natin ang alapaap. Baliktarin din natin yung action ng pagtingin. Paa pala. So, pag nanonood tayo, anong pinapanood natin? Baliktarin natin ang nood? Yung doon. No? So, we're talking about space. What about time? Memory? Ala-ala? Or to remember is alala? Or in the past, noon? May mga iba pang words na hindi ganun. Ano? Pero ito mga palindromes naman. So, isa lang ang time. Ang space actually babalik ta rin. Hindi siya ganun ka-distant eh. No? So, ang tanong, ayaw. Ayan. Video. Okay. So, ang tanong, hiwalay ba ang space and time? Tapos, sinadya ba ito? Mukhang sinadya eh. Tapos kung iisipin mo, ito yung mga universal givens. The stage na meron tayo. Kung Newtonian tayo mag-isip, yung space and time, ito yung ating entablado. No? At sino nag-isip nito? Mga ninuno natin, di ba? So alam na nila to. Or ganito ang kanilang worldview. No? Ang thinking nila about the cosmos or space and time. Our experience in the world. No? Tapos meron pang word na tapat. Actually, nakita ko may talk din si Dr. Remmon about tapat, the different meanings of tapat. Nagustuhan ko rin yung word na tapat kasi pag binaliktad mo, tapat din siya. Tapos, it confronts you. No? The same as the mirror which confronts you. So, tapat siya. No? At yung tapat, yung pwedeng honest, pero pwede rin yung sukatan. No? Tapatan mo yan. No? Mamaya natin babalikan yun. Napunta ako rito kay Plato. Yung Allegory of the Cave, I'm sure familiar na kayo sa Allegory of the Cave. Ito parang entrance to sa modern entrance to the Allegory of the Cave. And may chains yan. Actually, may chains yan na natanggal na nandun sa floor na nakaalis na yung mga prisoners. And then, di ba there were shadows on the wall? Tapos, ang tingin ng mga tao, yun ang reality. So, 2D lang yung reality nila. Yun pala, may mga puppeteers dito sa likod. Tapos, may bonfire. Iba palang reality, mas malawak. Nung makaalis yung isang prisoner, nakalabas siya sa cave, nakita niya, Nung tiningnan niya siguro yung puno, nakita niya yung shadow ng puno, yun ang sinabi niya tree. Hindi niya napansin na yung tree pala yung totoong tree. No? Tapos later nakita, dito pala galing to. Galing sa ilaw. So ito na naman yung ilaw ulit. Ano? So, kaya ko na-mention si Plato kasi nalilink ko siya sa familiar kay Father sa yung The Flatland. Yung kay Edwin Abbott. Maybe later pwedeng kwento ni Father yung Flatland. But it talks about a two-dimensional world na may two-dimensional being na mabuhay sa two-dimensional world. And what happens if, for example, kumuha ka ng bola, palulusutin mo rin sa two-dimensional field. How will that being see the ball? You will see it in slices. Una sa dot, unti-unting lalapad. Tapos liliit. Hanggang sa pagdalas magiging dot ulit, tapos mawawala siya. Diba? Pero if there's somebody from the three-dimensional world that will pick up that being, you'll add height from space and width. Diba? And you add another dimension, spatial dimension. Makikita mo na yung buo. So, ang metaphor kasi ng Plato's cave, that we are living in an incomplete a version of the world. Actually, kahit sa string theory, sinasabi nila that there are about 11 dimensions or 10 spatial dimensions and one time. Ganon din ang sinasabi kasi ng allegory of the cave. Incomplete itong pagtanggap natin sa buhay. We somehow always yearn for something up there or beyond what is. So, ang mirror space, the mirror is a two-dimensional object. Tanggalin na natin yung thickness kasi parang irrelevant na siya. No? May length and width. And it carries three-dimensional images. So in a way, it goes beyond its own spatial limitations. And pagka tinapat mo yung dalawang mirrors, you get a tunnel of infinity. So actually, ito yung magiging unang question ko mamaya kina Father at kay Dr. Remmon. Na paano nangyari ang mirror? Ang mirror kasi, binabounce niya lahat ng kulay. So para siyang zero, para siyang wala. Pero by being a nothing, it becomes the most perfect replica of the world in front of it. Except na flip side siya. And it also goes, it goes beyond its own dimension. So, i-link natin siya sa number, sa zero, palagay mo ng zero. And if you put another mirror in front of that mirror, pag nag-extend na siya, it suggests infinity. Walang hanggan. Now, dito tayo ngayon sa gitna ng kawalan, ng zero, at ng walang hanggan, ng infinity. Sa gitna nun, may mga iglap-iglap, ng mga araw, mga bituin, buwan, mga planeta, na kung saan nandito tayo, parang mga butil ng buhangin sa planeta, na mga butil din ng buhangin. At maliit pa sa buong universe. Anong papel natin sa ganitong kalawak na espasyo at panahon? Iyon ang unang tanong natin mamaya. At parang gusto ko na yatang magtanong bago ko pakita tong ibang... May video na ba tayo? Ito yung iba kong works na nagde-deal with that. Gumawa ako ng work ng title ay Temple. Ito ay cathedral. Parang siya ng cathedral. Composite. Tapos, noong 2012, sinundan ko kasi yung kanilang ng experiment sa Higgs boson, yung so-called God particle. Tapos, actually naging successful yung kanilang experiment. It's the largest scientific experiment ginawa tao, about 10,000 years and scientists, physicists sa Switzerland and France, sa gitna. No? Ginaya namin yung Atlas, pero maliit lang to. Siya yung atom smasher, no? The Large Hadron Collider. Yan ang tawag. So, it's considered as the cathedral of science. Ngayon, dito, actually face-to-face dito sa picture, pero back-to-back siya, yung actual. Back-to-back yan. The Cathedral of Faith and the Cathedral of Science. Two methods of investigation na come up ng humanity. Para alamin kung saan tayo galing, talk about origins and destinations. No? So, ang nagpe-play na ba? Hindi pa, no? Yung yung Higgs boson kasi, ayan. Yung Higgs boson, it's the particle na nagbubuo ng Higgs field. Tapos, anything that passes through it, nagre-react yung Higgs field. It's only light that does not interact with the Higgs field. Kaya ang light, ang fastest thing that can travel in the universe. Yung ibang mga particles, depende sa kanilang reaction sa Higgs field. Yun yung nagkukos ng drag at nagkukos ng mass. It's actually the particle that gives us mass. No? So, it's a different kind of mass na meron yung mass sa cathedral. No? So, yun din yung play dun ng images. No? Yung role ng mass sa dalawang images na to. Yung role din ng infinities at yung pwede mo sabing Genesis. Pero dito, they share a slice of space and they share infinities. No? Tingin ko classic na problema o conundrum ng tao yan. Paano ba natin i-resolve itong mga pagtingin sa mundo, either materialist yung view mo or something na mas spiritual. Na diyan nahati lagi yung pananaw ng mga tao. So ito na yung sa Large Hadron Collider. Ito naman, settlement. Sinaw din to dito sa Ateneo, sa baba ng building na to. Pero una siyang sinaw sa Ayala Museum, then nilipat siya sa Sunken Garden sa UP. At ito yung, ayan, ito yung sa baba, dyan sa. So ang laman nito, pagpasok mo sa loob, merong bread and fish. Actually, it's the multiplication of bread and fish. No? It's the miracle of Jesus. Pero sa altar, maliit na altar. Pero ang munting hiling ng tao, the basics of sustenance. No? Tapos pagpasok mo sa loob, ganyan ang itsura niya. Sa ilalim, may dalawang chains yan. Actually, reaction ko to sa burial ni Marcos. No? Yung biglang nilibing siya ni Duterte. Tapos may mga prison bars. Actually, some of the items that are placed underneath, mga yan, mga libro that belong to somebody who was incarcerated. So, dito sa gilid, makikita niyo may sa kanan. Oops. Familiar ba? Yung room na yan. It's where the cabinet meets sa Malacanang. Na. Tapos may ghost-like image dun sa kanan na mamaya puntahan natin siya. Tapos ito sa left side to, may mga nagrarally. Yung ghost na yan ay ghost ni Andres Bonifacio. No? Reflection siya ng sculpture on the other side. May karga siyang hammer. At sa kabila naman, si Manananggol ang tawag ko kay Manananggal. Uh, at ano siya, it's myth joining reality. Kailangan natin haluan ng mythology. No? So, ano nga ba itong room na ito ang tawag dito? Actually, may mga sedula pa palang pinunit yan dyan sa floor. Isa to sa mga unresolved issues sa Philippine history. Ang tawag sa dining hall na to, kung saan nagmi-meet ang ating cabinet, ay the Aguinaldo Hall. Na. So you have the ghost of Bonifacio inside the Aguinaldo Hall. No? So isa yan sa mga kailangan pa nating harapin, no? Mga tanong maliban dun sa question ng yung burial nga ni Marcos. So pwedeng i-play siya. Ito siya nung sinose sa UP. No? Nagsimula kami na akala ng mga tao, kasi kabababa lang ng mga Ferris wheel nun dahil may fair. Akala nila CR. Nung huli, dumaming tao. So, kailangan namin i-manage. They had to line up for 4 hours in order to have a 2-minute view of the work. So, sayang din nila masyadong kulang siguro yung time. Kasi you need about 10 minutes para ma-experience mo lahat. Ito naman mga tungkol sa warping of space-time. Siguro laktawan ko na to. Ayan. Meron ako ginawa yung paki-play. Yung wino-warp ko yung mirror. Tapos yung light, di ba, nagbe-bend. So, ayan yung itsura niya. And we begin with firewalk. Yung nakashow dyan sa taas. Yung firewalk kasi magsisimula siya sa nothingness, sa void. No? Although may nilagay akong objects dun sa gilid. May mga books sa kaliwat kanan. Pero let's say, nagsimula siya sa void muna. Tapos, ang sunod na image, you have building blocks, mga children's building blocks. Tapos mga children's toys na nasa paligid niyan. So it's the beginning of the idea of the construction of the self. No? Ang kalagitnaan niyan, mapapansin niyo may mga books banda ron sa next chamber. It's the accumulation of knowledge. May mga measuring instruments. We measure ourselves among others. Tapos, sinusukat natin yung sarili natin. May experiments din siya, no? May gamble din, no? May mga baraha dyan, ganun. And towards the end, parang shaky na yung ground. We keep the memories that we choose to keep, and there are memories that we choose to forget. And then you go back to the void. No? Yun ang story nitong firewalk. Ayan na yung pangalawa. No? So, gusto ko lang i-mention na merong books na nilagay ako ron. It's only for this version of Firewalk na nilagay ko yung book sa gilid. Kasi yung ending ng show, may libro rin na parang spine dun sa well, no? Yung last piece. Ang question ko mamaya kay Dr. Remmon, it's only the word that claims that in the beginning was the Word. At tanong ko rin kay Father. And the Word was with God. And the Word was God. Di ba may ganong passage? Pero yung mga experts sa Word din, na mga philosophers noon, sina Plato, and even before, they also see numbers as sacred. And numbers tell the truth. Bakit yung mga codes na yun? Letters and numbers. Kaya ako nandito kasi gawa ko ay visuals. In a way, medyo lugi ang visual arts in that way. Sa numbers and letters, although sa tingin ko rin among the arts, ang music is more primal. Kasi magsimula ka man sa Big Bang o kung sa heartbeat or naman. Andyan na sa heartbeat ng music. Andyan na ang rhythm. Pero walang claim ang music eh. Nakagaya ng claim na meron sa word at meron sa numbers. No? So, Siguro, lalaktawan ko na lang tong iba para masimulan na natin yung discussion. Magsisimula tayo rin sa una yung idea pala ng kawalan, zero, and walang hanggan. And then, yung the word, or in the beginning was the word, and the word was with God, and the word was God. Okay?
Estudyante ba kayo? Di ba finals week ngayon? Ako muna. Naririnig ba ako? Sorry. Test. Hello. Mic. Mic test. Oh, yun. Okay. Saan tayo magsimula? Sa zero at sa infinity? Oh, gosh. Well, first of all, no, I think we take for granted that number zero. It was not always apparent. Even in grade school, di ba? Remember the number line? We began with 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we progressed when we had subtraction. Dun lang napasok siguro yung zero. Para ayaw pa natin ng negative eh. Grade 4 na yata yung kailan ba nag-negative? Tagal na yata, di ba? Pero then after that, then we went into division and multiplication. Then we went into fractions. Naging mas komplikado na, di ba? But anyway, zero, when it was discovered, was very central because without it, I think we don't have much to go by in terms of looking at reality. And zero, in a way, is also important for physics because the underlying assumption is if in the beginning there was nothing, paano ba yun? There is nothing. Mahirap yun, di ba? There is zero. In a way, I will leave it to the philosopher to metaphysics na yun eh. But the assumption is that if in the beginning there was nothing, then if you have something, let's say an electron, then physicists or scientists were looking for a partner, an anti-particle. Diba? So for example, if there's an electron, dapat may anti-electron. May negative, just to make it zero. Just to maintain the sort of initial condition. If the initial condition was zero. Diba? So, and then so sabi nila, anong kalokohan yan? No? Anong anti-particle? But now we know, diba? An electron, the partner, which is called a positron, no, not proton. Sometimes people think proton yung partner ng electron, which is a positron, is actually, it exists. Kaya nga yung mga PET scan, di ba? Positron, yung P doon, positron eh. So they're getting the partner electron. When you merge an electron and a positron, what do you get? Well, you get zero in a way, but you also get a lot of energy. It annihilates, di ba? They get annihilated, they get destroyed. So yung zero doon, para bang is an assumption in a way, an axiom eh. Anyway, so that's one. Yung infinity naman, sorry medyo, kailan ba natin nakita yung infinity? Nung nagdi-division na tayo, kasi sabi natin, ano ba yung 1 divided by 0? Anong sagot natin nung grade school? Undefined. Diba? Undefined. So, ano yung undefined? Then, we became more sophisticated. Then said, when you divide something by nothing, what do you get? When you divide 1 by something very, very small, like 0.000001, you get a very large number. So when you divide 1 by 0, probably you approach infinity. So here are the bookends, 0, infinity. And sabi mo nga, paiglap-iglap, in between. My take though, when I look at your works, is that even in the finite, you see glimpses of the infinite. Mirror, finite. Pero parang walang hanggan, di ba? Yung tingin sa atin. But even one, let's say a segment between, yung number line, 1 and 2. Ilan numero kaya yan between 1 and 2? Ang dami. Infinite din. Pero may boundary eh. 1 and 2. Ayan, hindi ko rin alam. So, dun muna ako hinto siguro tungkol sa infinity at 0. Pero ewan ko kung nasagot ko yung tanong mo. Pero gusto ko lang pakita na hindi ganun, di ba? Napakalawak. There's so much still that we're discovering.
Oh, sige, okay.
Sorry, should I call you Dr. Remmon?
Hindi mo ma-plug. Gusto ko magsimula doon sa simula kanina, no? Kasi namangha ako kay Mark nung nagkasalita siya. Sabi ko, tula ito, tula, ano. At naalala ko lang, may sinulat ako nung in my previous life. No? As a Jesuit, ex-J na ako ngayon. Narito ang aking asawa na nagbago ng aking buhay. Sabi ko, ang wika pala ay tula at ako ay napatutulala. Ano, yun. At kanina nakikinig ako kay Mark. No? Napapatulala ako. Ano? Kasi ang gandang pakinggan. Ano? At gusto ko magsimula sa wika. Ano? Kasi ang ganda, nagsimula si Mark sa wika at sa palagay ko, doon din tayo magtatapos. At doon din tayo umiikot. Kasi ano ba yung wala? Ano? Salita lang naman yung wala eh. Kahit agham may salita, ano? Kahit matematika ay salita. Ano? Kaya nga, in the beginning was the word. No? At ang salita ay nagkatuwang tao. Lagi kong binabalik-balikan yun. No? Pero kasi yung undergrad ko, linguistics. No? So medyo interesado rin ako sa wika. Ano? Kasi isa sa pinaka-problema ng mga nag-aaral sa wika, yung origin of language. No? Kasi kung iisipin mo, masisiraan ka ng ulo. Kasi hindi naman nangyari na umupo yung mga katutubo, ating mga ninuno, ano. At sabi, sige, tawagin natin to ulap. Mystery, no? Kahit si Noam Chomsky, no? Meron siyang pinag-iba niya yung problems and mysteries of language, no? May problems of language, pero itong origin, hiwaga yan eh. Kaya gusto kong doon pag-ikutan yung pagninilay, no? Kasi yun nga, no? Ano bang isibihin na wala o meron? You know, si Heraclitus, si Parmenides, no, yung dalawang mga sinaunang palaisip, no. Si Heraclitus, alam niyo naman, no, yung we never step into the same river twice, no. Everything is constantly changing. No? Tapos bigla naman si Parmenides. No such thing as change. Everything is being. If everything is being, there's no room for nothing. No? Mahigpit na ipinagbabawal ang pag-iisip sa wala. Naalala ko si Father Roque Ferriols, no? Walang wala. Tapos nauwi ako kay Heidegger, no? Being and nothing are one. No? Yun nga, no, nakikita ko sa artwork ni Mark, no, na ito, naglalaro ang liwanag at dilim, ang meron at wala, ang may hangganan at ang the finite and the infinite, no. At sa aking palagay, doon tayo, this is the play of being, no. Nagpapasalamat din ako kasi parang practice ko ito. Meron pang next week na mangyayari dito. Photography and philosophy. So, in-advertise, tapos may nag-comment. Sabi ko kasi, photography is writing with light. No? Kasi, etymologically, yun naman talaga. No? May nag-comment na photographer, artist na nasa Berlin ngayon. Sabi, no, it's darkness. No? Light is just a decoration of darkness. So, tapos sabi ko, ang ganda, Japanese saying, Sabi ko, oh, ganun naman talaga. No? Si Heraclitus, sabi niya, uh, unconcealment happens because there is concealment. Nauuna yung concealment. Nauuna. Prior, what is obscure, kaya nga ang tawag kay Heraclitus is hos kotenos, no? The obscure one. No? At photography, nagsimula sa obscura, no? Kaya camera obscura, nanggaling sa dilim. No? Pero wala ka ding mangyayari kung puro black din. No? So, hindi nagtatalo ang liwanag at dilim, no? Kundi ito na nga yung sayaw, no? The play between dark and light, no? Infinite and finite. No? Tapos yung salita, anong kabaliktaran ng salita? Walang salita, katahimikan. No? Yun yung part 7 ni Wittgenstein. No? Wovon man nicht sprechen kann, darüber muss man schweigen. No? Whereof one cannot speak, thereof one must remain silent. No? At ang pinagmumulan ng wika ay katahimikan. No? Kaya nga kung hindi ka marunong manahan sa katahimikan, wala kang masasabi. No? Ingay lang yan. No? Kailangan marinig mo yung katahimikan. Kaya mga Jesuits palaging nagninilay. No? para may masabi sa homily. At kung hindi mangyayari. No? So, yun muna. So, may sinulat din ako dati yung where nothingness happens. Where the nothing happens. No? Kasi inimbitahan ako ng Lopez Museum. No? Magsalita tungkol kay Arellano. Hindi ko masyadong kilala si Juan Arellano. Alam ko lang, the father of modern architecture. So, umupo ako sa harap ng painting ni Arellano. Baka sakaling may lumitaw na kung anong. Tapos mamaya, walang nangyayari. Tapos may janitor lumapit sa akin. Tapos may bumisita sa kanya, pare, ano ba nangyayari sa museum? Sabi ng janitor, wala nga pare. Walang nangyayari dito, boring. Sabi ko, kling! Yun yung title ng aking article, There Where Nothing Happens. No? So, There Where Nothing Happens is where everything happens. No? Being and nothing are one. No? Kaya mahalaga din kay Heidegger yung boredom, no? Yung pagkabagot. Alam niyo ba kung walang pagkabagot, walang Jesuita? No? Kasi ano nangyari kay San Ignacio, bagot na bagot siya doon sa ano. Kaya sabi ni Heidegger, huwag matakot sa pagkabagot. Kasi naandyan sa harap mo yung kawalan at ang meron. The nothing takes you to being. Yun muna, no? Baka mapasarap.
Sarapan. Ayos. Okay ba? Oh, okay, no? So, ang ganda, no? Dun sa na-mention niyo rin, Father, and in relation din dun sa mga pre-Socratics. Naalala ko si Zeno. Tapos di ba yung Zeno paradox. Tapos si Zeno kasi may sinasabi siya na parang illusion ng movement. Tapos yung kanyang example, yung paligsahan ng hair ng tortoise. Na. Tapos, basta ano yan eh, sabihin na natin from point A to point B, papunta ron, dadaan ka sa gitna, may midpoint, yung point A, B. So from point A to point A, B, merong gitna. At from point, yung gitna nito, merong gitna. How many midpoints do we have? So yun ang similar dun sa question nyo kanina. Di ba walang katapusan? Kung iniisip natin tong sa paraan ng logical thinking. Ano. Although, hindi kasi ako marunong mag-calculus. Sabi nila na ma-invent daw yung calculus na solve daw yung malaking problema na yun. I don't know. Totoo ba yun, Father?
Yeah, in a way, infinities.
Infinities din.
Pero kailangan pa rin nilang magkaroon ng, hindi naman umuusad ang agham kung walang what I call acts of faith. Di ba? There are certain axioms, even in geometry, di ba? You say parallel lines don't meet in a Euclidean space. But is space Euclidean? Di ba? Alam natin ngayon, wawarp eh. So parallel lines do meet. So ibang klaseng geometry yon. Sila Riemann, sila sino-sino na yung mga yan, di ba? Yeah. So, anyway.
Oo nga. May na-meet kasi akong scientist na nasa US kami ni Joy, may opening noon. Ano. The first na physicist na na-meet ko. I know nothing about physics nung time na yun. Pero nakaharap ko siya sa dinner table ng after ng opening. Tapos tinanong ko, oh, what do you do? Sa US to. I teach physics. I'm a physicist. Eh, wala naman ako alam sa physics. Tapos tinanong ko siya, how do you begin to teach physics? Sabi niya, I always begin with Einstein. Yan. Tapos, in-explain niya yung theory of gravity, yung Einstein's simplified version ng theory of gravity, yung trampoline, yung alam niyo na yan, ano, yung trampoline, tapos may heavenly body, pag nag-occupy ng trampoline na yun, nagwa-warping space, and if you have smaller round objects, iahagis nyo ron, mag-form ng ellipse yung kanilang dinadaanan. Tapos, ito yung explanation, simple explanation yun ng gravity. Tapos, nag-flip ang mundo ko. Kasi mas Newtonian ang pag-iisip ko ng physics. Ano? Tapos, parang na-reinforce nga itong sa nothing and something. Kasi, the invisible influences the visible. No? So, sa ngayon, mas convinced na ako na mas marami nga talagang invisible. No? So, yung attempts ng mga tao, kagaya nito, no? Kunwari, yung work dun sa province, dun sa taas, may portion dun na, kung makikita niyo yung light sa baba, nakikita niyo ba yung tunnel of light dun sa baba? Pag ano yun, pagtatayo ka sa pillar, tapos may makikita kang reflection ng tunnel of light, tapos, ayan, titingin ka may ilaw, tapos pagtingin mo sa taas, may tunnel of light na nakikita mo. Tapos ang sinasabi namin dyan sa audience na you are a pillar of light connecting the celestial and the earthly worlds. So pupunta na ako rin sa next part na kilala niyo si Saint Simeon, di ba? Si Saint Simeon yung the Stylite. Siya yung Christian ascetic nung parang 390 AD. Tapos na yung persecution ng mga Christians. So parang gusto pa nila mag-sacrifice for Jesus. So hindi na sila finifeed sa mga leon. No? So meron tayong mga athletes for Christ. Tapos ang ginagawa ni Saint Simeon, marami siyang sacrifices before. No? Pero there was a time, kumuha siya ng pillar. Tapos tumayo siya rin sa taas. Kaso, yung mga followers niya, nagugulahan siya. So, tumaas ang pillar niya. Hanggang sa hindi na siya maabot. Doon na siya nabuhay. Alam niyo kung ilang taon? Ilang taon kaya ng tao mabuhay sa pillar? Kung hinahatira naman siya ng pagkain, siguro yung, kung ano mang dumi niya, ilang taon kaya ng tao mabuhay sa isang haligi? 37 years. Doon na siya namatay. So, ito yung vertical line towards the heavens. Again, yung attempt natin na maabot yung kalangitan. Siguro iba na yung frame of mind nun. Kausap niya ng Panginoon para sa kanya. Pero sa tingin natin, parang baliw siya. Diba? Siya yung nakawala sa kuweba ni Plato. Kung sino naman mga prophets o kung ano man. Parang naisip ko the idea of ginawa rin pala ni David Blaine yan. Ewan ko kung napanood yung nag 3 days yata si David Blaine. Pero yung idea ng up there. Kasi yung orientation yan. Tapos pag ang mundo naman, pag nandito sa ibaba, yung up there mo, nandun sa baba. Diba? So wala naman talagang up, no? Pero at least sa perspective natin, may ganun. Tapos iniisip ko tong word na vertical, no? Tapos tanungin ko kayo, what is the opposite of vertical? Horizontal. Pag inano mo rin sa internet, di ba? Horizontal, it seems. Pero pag tinanong mo, anong kabaliktaran ng vertical? Kasi an opposite should cancel out something, di ba? Into zero. Pag ginawa mo kasing horizontal, it will divide it, but it won't cancel it, di ba? And the opposite will be another vertical. Kung AB, BA yung opposite niya, di ba? So parang inisip, ba't kaya ganito mag-isip ang tao? Ano? Maybe is there something about language na automatic? Ganun ang iniisip natin. Na opposite ng vertical is horizontal. Kasi yun din ang una kong iisipin. Is it linked to gravity? Na? Na parang kailangan nating hindi ko alam eh. Actually hanggang ngayon hindi ko alam. Kaya tatanungin natin sila. Dalawa ngayon. What is the opposite of vertical? Bakit ganun tayo mag-isip about vertical and horizontal?
Oh boy. I guess even our notion of space-time, di ba? It's being challenged. Gravity, we tend to take for granted. I'm using my physicist hat. We used to think of it as a force. Yeah. Kaya may nalalaglag eh. Pero nga, nagkaroon lang si Einstein ng thought experiment eh. Sabi niya, paano kung nahuhulog ako? Diba? Kung nasa elevator ako, tapos bigla yung elevator na yan na napatid, so nahuhulog ako. At pag meron akong hawak na lapis, pag binitawan ko yung lapis, ano mangyayari? Babagsak ba yung lapis? Hindi, di ba? Kasi pare-pareho nung nalalaglag eh. Di ba? Parehong ako, I'm falling down, and this is also falling down. If you go, for example, to the space station right now, sometimes people think, oh, they're weightless. Is it because there is no gravity? No, there is gravity. Kaya nga nandyan yung moon, nandyan yung sun, di ba? The moon is being pulled by the Earth's gravity. Actually, the space shuttle, whatever, is falling down also. It's also falling towards the Earth. And so when you have these objects appearing not to fall, di ba? Because all of you are falling, then Einstein thought, maybe this gravity is not a force. Actually, I can create gravity, or I can destroy it. If in some corner of the universe, I am in an elevator and the elevator is going up at 9.8 meters per second, halimbawa, yung acceleration due to gravity, then, di ba, kung yung elevator umaakyat, pag binitawan ko yung lapis, lalaglag siya. Sabi ko, uy, nalaglag. May gravity. Pero wala naman talagang gravity. Gumagalaw lang ako. Di ba? It's motion. And that kind of very simple thought experiment, di ba? Sabi niya, yeah, maybe gravity is something more mysterious. And even the directionality, space-time itself, is a mystery. Binanggit kanina ni Mark yung dimensions, di ba? Kasi ang alam natin, 3. X, Y, Z, kahon. And time, 4. Di ba? 3D. Kung meron pa bang sa sine ngayon yung mga 3D goggles? Napanood nyo na ba yun? Yung mga sine na lumalabas yung kamay na meron kang sinusuot. 2D siya eh, pero ang alam natin 3D tsaka panahon. Pero alam rin natin na hindi sapat yung mga dimensions na yon. Einstein was tinkering with 5 dimensions. String theory, 11 pa nga. Isipin nyo, 11 axes, 11 lines perpendicular, all perpendicular to each other. Can you actually visualize that? So, how do you know what is the opposite of vertical? You can only visualize that in mathematics, which is a very important language of science. Kasi sabihin na, oh, I can actually visualize 11 lines perpendicular to each other. Not in my world now. Oh, dito. Consciousness. Which Einstein also puzzled over, sabi niya, how come I am just a little creature, a creation, and I can actually paint the universe? How come? Di ba? How come this little organ can comprehend or can at least try to understand? Aside from the fact that he puzzled over intelligibility, sabi niya, bakit ko naiintindihan ang mundo? Why? Why is it understandable? Why is it not opaque? Kasi halimbawa sa langgam, baka opaque yung mundo eh. Baka kilala ba niya yung mundo? Ewan ko, hindi ako langgam, pero... ah, pero bakit hindi siya... May konting, hindi naman transparent, but there's some translucent thing. I hope that it just... wala akong sagot, no? Pero gusto ko lang, I guess, I want all of us to be immersed in wonder. In the Judeo-Christian tradition, ang ganda nung image ng word eh. Because in the beginning, parang sinasabi, there was only silence. And the word breaks the silence. God speaks. That's the image of Genesis. Eh? And he says, it is good. It is good. Di ba? Kasi Mark plays with light. You know, even physicists don't know what light is. What is light? We see it every day, di ba? Until now, we don't have the language. Sometimes it behaves like a wave. Pinakita niya yung bandwidth, di ba? Roy G. Biv rainbow. May infra, tsaka may ultraviolet. And so on. It's waves, but then sometimes it also behaves like particles. Particle is local eh. Sometimes it goes through two doors at the same time. Sometimes it chooses just to go through one door. So we don't have the language eh. Is it wave? Is it particle? Sometimes nga sabi ko, wavicle? Di ba? Party wave? Ewan ko, hindi ko alam eh. Wala. And which is why, I guess, for me, it does not depress me. It broadens my spirit. Anyway, sorry. End of sermon. No.
Siguro, una napaisip ako, ba't kaya may inimbitahan ni Mark isang physicist at philosopher? Tapos naisip ko, nga, no, historically, pinakamalapit ang physics sa philo of the sciences. No? Tapos yung pinakapaborito kong, my all-time favorite philosophical fragment, tatlong katagalang, no? At ipininta ko yun sa bahay namin. para nakikita ko tuwing almusal. Yung tatlong kataga ay physis, physics. No? Physis cruptestae philae. No? Nature loves to hide. No? Heraclitus. No? At sinaling ko to bilang may kahiligang magkubli ang kalikasan. No? Yun nga, kaya we don't have the language. It withdraws from us. Tapos yun nga, galing kay Heraclitus, physis cruptestae philae, no? May kahiligang magkubli ang kalikasan. Nature loves to hide. No? We're always humbled by nature, di ba? Pandemic, no? We think we know everything, and then all of a sudden, ang tatanga natin lahat. Ano? Kaya I'm fascinated by one of the 7 last words ni Jesus. No? Sabi ko, when Jesus said, Father, forgive them, they know not what they're doing. No? Is he lying or is just being kind? is he telling the truth? Sabi ko, but he's not a liar. So, but does that absolve us of our destructiveness, of our sinfulness? No? Pero baka totoo nga, wala tayong alam, ang tatanga nating lahat. We destroy the only earth, the only home that we have. Nanood ba kayo ng three-body problem? Nanood ka, Father? Di ba? Nire-resign na tayo sa extraterrestrial because we cannot save ourselves. No? So yung sa wika, tapos mula kay Heraclitus, kay Heidegger naman, yung the nature of language. What is language? No? Kasi ang haba-haba. Iba dito na estudyante ko yata. Tumutungo na sila. No? Anyway, ang haba-haba. Tapos biglang yung yung peak nung reflection. The being of language. The language of being. Ibig sabihin, kung nais nating maunawaan ng wika, matuto tayong makinig sa wika ng kalikasan. No? Paano ba mangusap ang kalikasan sa atin? Nangungusap ang kalikasan sa maraming paraan. No? Di ba? Tinatago niya ang kanyang lihim sa atin. Pinapakumbaba tayo no? Sa ating pagmamalaki. No? Laging nauuna ang kalikasan. No? So, kaya gustong-gusto ko yung kay Heraclitus, no? Fusis, cryptastai, philae. No? Mahilig magkubli ang kalikasan. At yun din na nakikita ko sa artworks ni Mark, no, na ito yung laro ng pagpapakita at pagkukubli, di ba? Ito yung laro ng may hangganan at ng walang hanggan. Yun nga, ng liwanag at dilim, no? Tapos napaisip din ako yung sabi ni Father Jett kanina, no? We don't have the language, no? At yun ay isang hint, no? Kasi we think we have language. No? No, sabi ni Heidegger, humans don't speak language. No? Language. It is not humans who speak. No? It is language that speaks. No? And language is the house of being. No? Okay, tatama na ako doon. Pero parang nagnilay siya sa isang makata, si Stefan George. No? Und so traurig ich den Verzicht, kein Ding sei, wo das Wort gebricht. And so sadly I learned how to renounce. No? Where the word breaks off, no thing may be. No? Oh, binaligtad niya. No? Kasi ang akala natin, una mo na may beings, and then we have language, and then we label them. Pero kay Stefan George, no language, no being. No? And it's not a question of vocabulary. It's not a question of just not having the terms. Hindi, no? Language is withdrawing itself from us, no? And constantly humbles us. No? Language is a gift. No? Kaya nga yung sa linguist nga na the origin of language, talagang insolvable yan, yung the problem of the origin of language. No linguist, no one can ever solve where language came from. No? It's because it's a gift. No?
Synthetic a priori.
Ito yung natira sa haligi ni Saint Simeon. Tiniktik ng mga tao at ginawang souvenir. No? So, yung fragments pa na. Kung merong isang nag-converge sa kanya yung ating mga hindi kayang gawin na kaya niyang gawin. Tapos makakakuha tayo ng kapiranggot nun. Tingin natin meron na rin tayo sa kanila. No? Ako ko ba't fascinated ako kay Simeon. No? Pero, asan na ba to? Anyway, lalaktawan natin. May isang portion dyan sa province module din. Na-mention na rin ni Sir Remmon yung home kanina. No? May nakasulat dito, hidden home echoed. Tapos binubura yung home, yung E sa home. Sa reflection, ang basa mo sa kanya how. No, kasi baliktad eh. So, hidden home echoed. How hidden? So, may question siyang naka-embed doon. How hidden? Hidden home echoed. How hidden? How is home hidden? It so happens na nung nilipat namin dito sa Ateneo, yung work, dahil may katabing hawla doon sa module, sa fragment na yun, sa segment na yun. Yung shadow ng hawla, napunta ron sa chalkboard. Nakikita niyo ba yung casted shadow sa chalkboard? This talks about yung pagpasok ng yung American colonialism, yung ABC, ganun. Tapos before that, yung Genesis naman ay tinuro ng mga Spaniards. Pero maliban doon yung idea ng home, tapos ang feeling natin na nakakulong tayo sa kung ano lang ang meron tayo. Gusto ko sanang puntahan din yung, kasi nagsimula tayo sa malawak, no? Tapos papunta tayo rito sa, nag-zoom in tayo. Tapos yung home, medyo mas ano na yun, mas maliit na. You can talk about home as the Philippines. You can talk about the home as yung bahay natin. Or home as tayo, yung sarili. Tapos, lahat yun may levels ng pagkakubli sa atin ng kung anong home. Pero madalas mo ring marinig yung word na authenticity siguro. Marami kayong masasabi about authenticity. I'm sure si Heidegger maraming sinasabi tungkol sa authenticity na hanggang ngayon hindi ko maintindihan. No? So, I always say na mahirap sabihin ang authenticity o habulin ang authenticity. Kasi I myself rely on deception doon sa trabaho ko. So, am I being honest in deceiving you? So, may authentic ba doon? At yun ding word na authentic assumes something na may buo, may before ka pa nag-exist ba? Or do you have an essence? Is there something essentially you? Or is it something na kinikreate? At yung pag-create na yun, yung authenticity nun, di ba influence din naman ang choices natin ng maraming factors? So siguro yun ang tanong ko, no? Yung idea ng home sa self, and pwede natin i-expand sa country or ano, pero siguro more sa self. Sa ngayon, ano? Yung work talks about the country, pero I'd like to ask about the individual dito. So,
Hirap ng tanong eh.
Sige, Father. Siyempre malapit sa akin yung paksa, no? Kasi yung dissertation ko, Heidegger and a new possibility of dwelling, no? At yung MA thesis ko dito sa Ateneo, pag-uwi at pananahan sa wika at tula, no? Kasi yun na nga, no? Kung ang Diyos ay wika, no? At sa Diyos ka rin mananahan, no? So malaking paksa sa akin, no? Parang kay San Agustin din, di ba? Fecisse nos ad te et inquietum est cor nostrum donec requiescat in te, no? Sapagkat kami nilikha mo para sa iyo at hindi mapalagay ang aming mga puso hanggat hindi ito nananahan sa iyo, no? So lahat tayo nababagabag, lahat ng ginagawa natin mga gawain ng pagkabagabag, no? Hindi tayo mapakanali, no? Paggalaw-galaw tayo until we rest, no? Yung restlessness ay bahagi ng yung restlessness parang tanda na kailangan nating makauwi, no? Naliligaw tayo kung saan tayo napapadpad, no? At sa huli sana makauwi, makapanahan, no? At yung tula, yung sining ay siguro yung pinakamataas na paraan upang magising tayo, no? At makauwi, no? Yun kasi sabi din ni Heidegger, no, sa pagninilay niya na poetry is all art is poetry, no? And poetry is the original language, no? Hindi yung language muna tas nagawa ng poetry. Hindi, ang language is poetry, no? It is. So kaya nga yung, di ba, and art is all art is poetry, no? Kaya nga hindi katakataka na nagsimula si Mark sa sa wika, sa mapagtulang pagninilay, no? Yun, no? In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was made flesh and dwelt amongst us. Yun din ang sa akin, hindi ako maubos-ubos doon sa kasi ang ganda-ganda, no? Yung salita ay nagkatawang tao. Hindi sinabi ni St. John the Evangelist, and the Word was made flesh and showed us who the boss is, no? Hindi gano'n. hindi sinabing the Word was made flesh and forgave our sins. Pwede rin sana. Pero hindi, no? Or the Word was made flesh and saved us. Hindi, and dwelt amongst us. Non-judgmental ang Diyos. The first instinct of God is to be with us without judgment. Kaya nga 30 years muna bago siya nag-public life. 30 years yung... Kaya yun ang lesson sa atin na gustong tumulong sa iba pero babad muna, babad. Sabi ni Father, yung dati kong rector, Father Bill McGarry, shut your mouth for a year, at least a year if you're in another country before you speak na dwell. Makinig, buksan. At saka, so, nandoon, nananahan tayo sa wika. Yun nga, sabi ni Mark kanina, ang daming mo natutuklasan dahil sa wika. Bawa yung nagdadalang tao, hindi na debate kung ano yung nandun Tao yung dinadala. Di ba? Hindi nahuhuli ng I'm pregnant. Pero nagdadalang tao siya. Wow. He's carrying a human being right from the beginning. Maraming na Anyway, so, yun muna, Father.
Home. Naikwento ko rin to. Once I was early 2000, I was in Palanan, Isabela. One of the perfect hiding place. Dun hinuli si Aguinaldo, di ba? Sa Palanan. Meron ngang bust si Aguinaldo dun Bust lang, di ba? Sabi nila, Father, tingnan nyo yung bust ni Aguinaldo. Walang kamay. Bakit walang kamay? Bust di ba? Ayaw lang niyang pakita na nakaganon kasi. so, anyway, at that time, power was rationed, and I came from a blessing from a farmer's house, and I was in this sakay ako sa tricycle, and I was going back to the convento. Siyempre, gabi yun, dilim. Wala pa naman mga GPS noon So, ang aking GPS, yung mga between. Di ba? Yung constellation, okay, we're going northeast. Ito yung papunta na, papauwi. Then I remember asking the question going back, where is home? Actually, before that, I said, God, I'm so far from home. I'm in this godforsaken place. Ang layo, di ba? I had to ride a small Cessna, to get into Palanan. And sabi ko, ang layo ng tahanan or bahay or whatever. Then I asked, where is home? And then, for me, that was one of the more liberating moments, I think, in my life. Kasi sabi ko, I can stay here all my life. When I realized that, God, I'm free. Diba? Parang, I don't have to be in Manila. I don't have to be in my parents' house. And I said that I can stay here. That was it's like maybe Anthony or Simeon on that pillar. I guess we have a beautiful word, diba? Tahanan. Tahana. That's what we tell a child who is crying. Tahana. Tahana. Sa English, there. Parang hindi maganda. Sa atin, tahana. A place where tears stop. A place where the rain. Pag tumila is another word for yung, pero sabi, tumahan na ang ulan. A place where I guess we can be, where we don't have to be afraid to be ourselves. we all wear masks, di ba? But then I think home is the place where there are less of these face masks. We don't need to pretend because I guess we're not afraid, or there will be someone or some people will accept. Minsan nga inisip ko, ano ba yung karakter? Yung karakter ng isang tao. Minsan inisip ko lang, karakter ay kung sino ka man kung walang tumitingin. Diba? Ikaw yun, kumbaga. Pero gusto kong balikan yung, hindi na to physics, no? But I guess, para bang, sorry, I'm going now to speak as a priest, as a Jesuit, di ba? I think, I mean, what Ignatius sort of just declares even at the beginning of his spiritual exercises, he just says, alam mo, ito talaga yung mission vision statement ng buhay mo. Ano yun? Ano yung vision mission? Ito lang, simple. We are meant to live with God forever. That's our destiny. Maybe pasli, minsan maraming detours, but eventually, yun. Home. Alpha, Omega. Yung parang, and it takes a while for some of us to realize that, but then He's already telling us. So, sabi ko, forever? Di ba? Parang infinite. That's where we're headed. Home. And we get a sense of it even now. Yeah. Kasi may uhaw, may kulang, our hearts are restless, as Augustine would say. May kutub tayo. We're meant for more. This life is not the last trip in town. Yeah. If it were the last trip in town, we'd be anxious. We'd be greedy. We'd try to grab. Di ba? Pero pag alam mong, di pa, marami pa. Pumunta sana ako sa multiverse, pero saka na yun. Sa physics na tayo ulit pero marami pa. Tulad naman sinasabi ko sa mga estudyante ko sa I teach science and society, STS10. Even physicists know that we only know 5%. Imagine in this room, only 5%. I see you, but I only see 5% of you. You see me, you only see 5%. Physically, wala pa may mga psychological and spiritual ek-ek. Physical lang. Dark matter, dark energy. Imagine. There's still so much to see and to speak about, I think. Anyway, sorry. End of sermon 2.
Home is the void. Is it the void? It's that mystery, na hindi natin alam. We call it God. We call it universal consciousness. We call it the force. Many other names, but it's actually the mystery. Parang dinala niyo ako sa ending. Parang gano'n. Pero yung home kasi, actually may question pa ako. Kay Father din, at pwede rin kay Sir Remmon. Yung kasing, sorry kung babalik tayo sa numbers. Tinatanong din ng madalas to, is mathematics discovered or invented?
What is What is pi? Anyone? Pi. 3.1415, whatever. And they've been trying, there's this Japanese mathematician who's been trying to calculate the billionth place. And it's always different. It's not repeating. Kasi they're looking for patterns of repetition. Eh. And it just goes on and on. A simple number. Actually, letter. Pi. Greater than us. I think. Diba? And it's just a circle. And a diameter. When you divide it, it's mysterious. Diba? E. Sorry. Very much present in radioactive decay, population growth, even chismis, marites. E. E. 2.7 whatever. Again, infinite. Diba? So, is it something we invented? Or something we just discovered? Katuwa, no? I mean, certainly without mathematics, though, we cannot understand the universe. I guess like music, Pythagoras and the spheres, diba? These harmonics, mysterious patterns. But yeah, right now in general relativity, we're back to geometry. Wala na yung mga force, mga dynamics. Hindi na yun lumalabas eh. We're back again to simple geometry, shapes. Diba? So, math din. Na hindi maintindihan lamang kung, kunyari kung Newtonian yung physics, or calculus man. Si Newton tsaka si Leibniz, sila yung gumawa ng calculus eh. Hindi na sapat yun eh. Hindi na sapat yun. So, pero, yun pa rin ang tanong eh, ng mga siyentista. Okay, if gravity is the curving of space-time, when you start to ask, why does space-time curve then? When we say, ambut, jak amo, no sé, di ba? Basta. And for the scientists, we'll say, don't ask me why, because I don't think we will ever be able to answer that question. I can tell you how. But if you ask me why, punta ako sa philosopher. Diba? Sa mga theologians ngayon. Pero I think science has become humbler this time. Alam nilang limits eh. And because of cosmology and questions of origin, natatameme ang mga siyentista. Hindi na, wala bang wika eh. And at least, alam nila, di ba? Alam nila yung limitasyon. Yung iba kasi, yun ang problema eh. Pag konti lang yung alam mo, akala mo, ang dami mong alam. Pero, dahil marami kang alam mong kaunti lamang ang iyong alam. And what's the most frightening thing is the things that we do not know that we do not know. Back in the early 20th century, we thought, alam na natin lahat. And then, boom, dating sila Einstein, nabulabog sila, quantum mechanics, yung tinasabi natin quantum entanglement, di ba? Hanggang ngayon, di ba? Di natin alam kung ano itong mga to eh. Nabulabog tayo. And, kaya, mangha, di ba? Ang hantungan ng agham ay itong pagkamangha. It can go both ways, I guess. It can make you desolate, or it can open you up and be, I guess, grateful. Life is gift, grace, to be here. It is, tama ba yun? Kasi ang sagot ko, why is there something rather than nothing? Ang sagot ko kasi, because something is better than nothing. Parang, kesa wala. And why are we here? Maybe it's good to be here. It's good to be alive.
Yeah. Siguro, yeah. Nakita ko lang dati kong student sa MA, si Jonald Morales, sorry. Nag-thesis niya David Bohm and Heidegger, no? Being and nothingness. The implicate order ba yun? Anyway, napaisip ako sa tanong. Hindi ko naman siyempre alam, no? Ngayon ko lang narinig. Pero intriguing, no? Was mathematics invented or discovered? No? Siyempre, hindi ko masasagot yan. No? Pero nais ko lang, siyempre, yung math thesis, siyempre, yung turf ko, language, philo. No? Math thesis is what can be taught. No? So yung maituturo. No? Pero nais kong pagtuunan yung matematika bilang pagsusukat. No? At babalik ako kay Heidegger sa kanyang pagninilay sa isang makata, si Hölderlin. No? Sabi niya, is there a measure on earth? Sabi ni Hölderlin. Sinagot niya. Sabi niya, there is none. Poetry is the original measure. The measure of all measures. Tapos naalala ko si Benny Santos nung junior kami sa eskwela sa Loyola. Sabi niya, teacher niya, bakit hindi nagkakaintindihan si Jesus tsaka yung mga Pariseo? Kasi si Jesus poetic all the time. No, look at the birds of the air. This is my body. Ano ba yan? Tapos yung mga Pariseo, legalistic mag-isip. Poetry versus technical legalism, hindi magkatagpo. Ano? Kaya ang susi sa pag-unawa ng katotohanan ng ating sarili ay tula, ay sining, no? Kaya mahalaga yung galleries, no? Hindi ito extra time lang sa Sunday, no? Kung walang sining, wala tayo, no? Kung walang tula, wala tayo, no? Kaya mura na yung 50 pesos na entrance fee. Pwede taasan. Buti na lang libre doon. Sa Munich kami libre every Sunday. No? Kaya sinamantala namin. So, yung sinabi niya, we measure ourselves all the time. And we measure ourselves against the divine all the time. That's why we call ourselves mortal as opposed to immortal. No? And only human beings are called mortal. We don't call dogs mortal. Because only human beings are capable of death as death. No? I say Heidegger na yan. No? We are the only ones who can die. No? Animals perish, no? Plants wilt. Pero tayo lang yung nagbumukmok. To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether it is nobler in the mind to suffer. Kaya eternal si Shakespeare, yung soliloquy ni Hamlet. No? Kasi si Hopkins din. Naku, yung estudyante ko, sir, yan na naman, Hopkins na naman. Margaret, are you grieving over golden groves and leaving leaves like the things of man you with your fresh thoughts care for? Can you? As the heart grows older, they'll come to such sights colder by and by, nor spare a sigh. The world so one would leave me lie, and yet you will weep and know why. Now no matter's child the name, sorrow's springs are the same, nor mouth had, nor mind expressed what heart heard of, ghost guessed. It is the blight man was born for. It is Margaret you mourned for. Ang bata pa si Margaret. Nakita lang niya bumabagsak yung mga dahon sa gubat. Naiiyak na siya. Sabi ng person, talaga? Ang bata mo pa. Yun pala, nagluluksa na tayo sa... Yun kasi we keep measuring ourselves, no? Kasi alam natin sa dulo mamamatay. Kaya gusto ko yung kay Mark kasi yung una mong yung installation, yung huli, yung death, di ba? Reflect meditation on life, no? Pero yun na nga, sasabihin ni Heidegger, death is not nothing. Death is the shrine of the nothing, but nothing and being are one, no? Di ba? Yung hindi kawalan, no? Kundi pagiging meron, no? Kaya nga yung Lenten season, ano ba yung nagsisimula yung Lent? Dust. Unto dust, no? Kaya magtatapos na lang ako kay Heraclitus. Merong isang fragment sa Heraclitus, parang ano ba yan? Sabi niya, the dead body must be thrown, corpses should be thrown quicker than dung. Ano ba yan? Parang wala namang pag... corpses should be thrown quicker than dung. No? Heraclitus, being Heraclitus, no? Lagi siyang nangaaway eh. Polemos. Sa tingin ko, ginugulat lang niya tayo na wag tayong, do not cling on, no? Let go, no? Kita mo, di ba? Merong hindi inilibing agad. Yung pinag-uusapan ni Mark kanina. Di ba? Frozen, no? Corpses should be thrown quicker than dung. Sa kahol yun, physics-wise, ano pinagkaiba natin sa tae? Ano? Sino ba nanood ng Martian? Si ano? Di ba he was saved by, ano? By shit. Ano pangalan ng actor? Matt Damon, di ba? Di ba? He was saved by shit. No? So, di ba? So, yun na nga, no? Corpses should be thrown quicker than dung. No? At kay Ignatius, yun yung, yung inordinate attachments, no? Yung let go, no? Palayain ng sarili, no? At ang, yun na nga, no? Ang pagpapalaya ng sarili ay nagaganap sa tula, no? Sa sining, no? Kaya nga yung sining, sila yung sabi nila, di ba, yung ginugulo tayo, yun talaga ang dapat mangyari, no? Dapat hindi tayo to be at home is not to feel so at home. You need that disturbance, no? Kasi we're meant for something always greater than us. Singit na lang, sorry, yung authenticity sinasabi ni Mark kanina, no? Wika din, no? Kasi well, kay Heidegger, yung salita ay Eigentlichkeit, no? At Eigen ay sarili, no? So, authenticity is nothing other than coming home to oneself, no? Eigen, to one's own, no? Pagiging tapat sa sarili, no? Not so much yung telling something that is true or not fake, no? But Eigen, no? Coming to one's own, no? Yun yung Eigentlichkeit, no?
Mas sinasabi niya. So, papunta na tayo sa last question. Merong portion itong work na to sa cyclone. Yan kasi nagbabago na ang mundo from nature to industry. Actually, may sinabi rin si Heidegger about concerning about technology. Tapos, yung part na ito, naglalaro ba kayo ng saranggola nung bata kayo? Alam niyo, pag nagpunit kayo ng papel, maliit, tapos pupunitin niyo sa gitna, isasakay niyo rin sa sinulid, sa tali. Pipitik-pitikin niyo yung tali, aakyat yung papel. So, yun yung ginagawa namin noon. So, ito parang mga sulat sa papel. Sulat to ng actual na mga bata. Mga pangarap nila, gusto kong maging doktor, gusto ko ng kapayapaan, gusto ko sanang gumanda-ganda ang buhay ng pamilya, gusto kong parang umasenso ang Pilipinas. Para siyang sinulid na konektado rin sa kite. No? Pag naglalakad ka din sa taas, it's like your kites carrying their dreams and aspirations to the heavens. No? Parang yun yung sinasabi ng work. Tapos ito na yung siguro yung application, no? Ng mga questions natin. How do we apply based on these observations? At medyo makikita mong you come up with certain principles sa buhay na sabihin mo, ito mabuti, ito hindi. And yet, you know that kanina pa tayo nag-uusap ng kawalan at walang hanggan, being and nothingness. Yung may na-mention din kayo na paradoxical. Na, marami nang na-mention na paradoxical kanina. At sa observation ko, mukhang paradox ang buhay. At mahirap pumili ng isa lang. At sa tingin ko, as we move on with our lives, we have to think that most of the time it's paradoxical. No, so, siguro I just want to hear from you yung idea ng paradox and yung application nga ng, ng mga observations natin sa universal and individual truths, kung ano man ang truth na yun. It doesn't have to be a capital truth. Ano. Pero just how we live our lives. No? Ito kasi parang yung passing on to the next generation of carrying their dreams or thinking about their dreams no, sa work na to. Pero moving on and application and paano tayo susulong sa ating mga buhay before it ends. No? Parang ganun.
Paradox. Isa sa mga, ano ba paradox sa Tagalog? Paradox. Kabalintunaan. Isang kabalintunaan. Yeah. Isa sa mga kabalintunaan na si Louis Thomas, isang I think biologist, doctor, was reflecting on evolution. And sabi niya, if we had, parang we have to have a better word than chance. If we are to describe the progression from bacteria to Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. Di ba? Parang, the wonder of, but one paradox he mentions is, if in this chain of evolution, if at some point we became immortal, then we would not be here. Parang, if at some point evolution became perfect, di ba? Kunyari, yun na yung hantungan, di wala na tayo, hindi na kailangan tapos na. Diba? So, if we were perfect, if we were immortal, we would not be here. Tapos na. Napako yung evolution dun sa cyanobacteria. Kasi perfect na yun Hindi na kailangan, parang death has to happen in a way. Or if you look at all these efforts of medicine to prolong life, di ba? We're trying to no? Diba? Immortality or at least, pwede ba hanggang 150 years? Or 200 years, di ba? Ano yung sikreto? May elixir ba? If that happens, di ba, then each day, I think we will just take for granted. But if we knew, lalo nung pandemic nangyari ito di ba? Paano kung bukas, di ba? Kung ito na lang then you want to live this day. Para bang it's the transience that gives meaning to life. Kung maglaro ka ng tennis at walang linya, hindi yan tennis. Walang out of bounds. Walang net. Anong klaseng laro yan? Diba? May hangganan. I like to, hindi ko lang kung masasagot ko yung tanong mo, pero when we look at the universe, si Zachary Hayes, isang theologian, Franciscan, he says, if God were an economist, then there is no need for all these galaxies, di ba? Economist ka you'd be sparing. Sayang. Wasteful. So he says, probably God is an artist who will be unsparing and would splash colors, di ba? Eh ano kung nandyan lang sila dun sa isang maliit na kanto ng universe? Eh ano? Diba? Kasi hindi naman, it's not economic considerations that come into creation. And why then? I guess as an artist, diba? As you are an artist, the experience is, it just opens up. It opens up your life, your world. When yun ang trahedya rin minsan kasi, diba, pag wala na, hindi natin nakikita yung between, masyadong maliwanag na eh. Pero kasi si San Ignacio, di ba? May karanasan siya na pag tumitingin siya sa between, wala naman siyang astronomy, wala naman siyang alam sa astrophysics. Pero pag tumitingin siya sa kalawakan, napapaluha siya. Parang napapaisip siya, sino ako? Tulad nung sa Psalm 8, di ba? Who are we? You know, that you would lavish all this. So, I think, yeah, when we ponder this creation, this universe of whatever something being, we realize, yeah, maybe it's not necessary, but it's beautiful. And it opens up our spirits to, I guess, our destiny. So the paradox, I guess, part of the paradox is in our finitude. Sorry, balik ulit tayo sa infinity. Actually, Momok, when I look at equations even, E is equal to mc squared. I don't think you can be more poetic than that. There's poetry there. Pero mo, E, mc squared, tapos may dalawang ganun. Bakit 2? Bakit hindi 1.9999? 2.001? Bakit 2? Diba? Bakit dalawa lang? F is equal to ma. O bakit diba? Napakasiksik. No? Tapos, dahil doon, nakakapunta tayo sa buwan. Di ba? Ang dami natin nagagawa. So, there's beauty also that we see in those equations. I'm an atmospheric scientist eh. Minsan nga, sabi ko, sana nakikita nila, ang hirap gumawa ng bahaghari, no? How do you make a rainbow? God, ang hirap. How do you make a droplet of water? Ulan. Ang hirap. Isang semestre kong pinag-aralan. Yung physics lang. Di ba? From molecules, then they'll form into a drop. And then the light will hit that drop and refract the colors. Oh God, ang hirap niyan. Pero sabi ko, and that deepens my appreciation. Di ba? Na hindi nyo nakikita. Sabi ko, sana nakikita nyo rin yung nakikita ko. Parang palagay ko yun ang pakiramdam ng Diyos. Sana nakikita nila yung nakikita ko sa kanila. Diba? Anyway, sorry. Thank you.
Tabi ah. Oo. Kanina, hindi ko alam bakit, no? Lumitaw yung salita sa isip ko, yung ating kasabihang sukat akalain. No? Kailan ba natin ginagamit? Hindi ko sukat akalain. Ang ganda. Ngayon ako naisip, parang yung pag-amin na lagi tayong huli, no? Hindi natin only in hindsight, no? Kaya tama si Jesus, no? Forgive them, Father. They don't know what they're doing. No? Sorry, kanina nung papunta naming campus, nakita namin, alam niyo naman yung North Car Park. Sabi ko, tatayo ako doon, maglalagay ako ng placard, forgive us, Father. We don't know what we're doing. No? Kasi umiinit na nga, no? Magsasemento pa tayo. No? So yung hindi ko sukat akalain. Parang yun ang kwenta ng buhay natin. No? Like, ako magsi-60 na ako sa December. No? Ano bang ginagawa ng mga retirees? Looking back. Si Enrile gagawa ng memoir. No? Pero laging in hindsight mo nakikita ang tanga ko pala. No? Ginawa ko yun. So yung, pero constantly nagsusukat tayo. No? Pero laging kapos yung sukat natin. No? Laging mali yung sukat. Akala natin tama yung pagsusukat. No? Yan ang gawain ng agham, ng matematika, gawain din ng ekonomika, gawain din ng filosofiya. Lahat ng pag-isip ay pagsusukat. No? Nagpaplano tayo ng buhay. No? Tapos mamamatay din pala tayo. No? At gusto kong magtapos dun sa sinasabi ni Father Jett na yung maganda. No? Kasi sa dulo ng lahat, no? yung pinakamagandang sukat, yung ganda. No? At hindi mo yan masusukat. At higit-higit yan sa lahat ng iyong inaakala. No? Hindi sukat, akalain. No? At gusto kong bumaling kay Nietzsche. No? Sabi ni Nietzsche, no? Whatever is done out of love always takes place beyond good and evil. No? Lampas-lampas sa kaya mong sukatin. No? At naalala ko isa novitiate, no? Kasi yung maganda. Ang isa sa pinakapaborito kong eksena sa Gospels, yung anointing at Bethany. No? Ang ganda-ganda nun, grabe. Pero sobrang sensual din. No? Isipin nyo, no? Di ba? May magbuhos sa'yo ng langis na babae. At sa version ni Saint Luke pa, woman of the city, woman of sin, ganun. Siya lang yung nagsabi na Saint Luke. Yung iba, walang masyadong information. No? Tapos pahiran ka, no? In public, no? Napaka-sensual. No? Medyo maaalangan ka yata, no? At hindi lang sensual, siguro happy, prostitute pa, woman of the city. Yung ba isabihin ng woman of the city? Tapos na-skandalo yung iba, nagsukat. Uy, ang mahal kaya niyan. Naibenta sana yung sisigdan. At yung proceeds na ibigay sana sa mahihirap. Sinukat din nila yung babae. Walang kwenta ng babae na nagugulo sa party namin. Pero si Jesus, iba ang nakita niya. Ano sabi niya? Leave her alone. What she has done is a beautiful thing. Si Jesus lang nakakita ng maganda kasi open siya, nakata siya. What she has done is a beautiful thing, and whenever the gospel is proclaimed, let what she has done today be told in her memory over and over again. Nakuha ko yung kay Father Benny Calputura. Kasi sabi niya may tatlong simbolo yung anointing at Bethany. Una, yung mamahaling, kasi sinabi ni Father Jett, yung mamahaling langis at mamahaling alabastro, symbol of God's extravagant love. Ang ganda na wika natin, no? To love, mahal. Mahal, hindi mura. No? Hindi nagtitipid ang nagmamahal. No? Di ba? Hindi tayo binabarat ng nagmamahal. No? Ikalawa, yung simbolo na mahal na nga, binasag pa. Sobra na. Ano daw simbolo nun? So, of course, God's most expensive gift is His Son. No? Hindi lang niya binigay yung anak. Pinadurog pa sa krus. No? He allowed His Son to be broken. No? Yung pinakauna palang simbolo, yung paghalik sa paa. Medyo yucky yun, di ba? Lalo na nakasandalos yung mga tao, no? Puro alikabok. Yung daw simbolo ng paghalik sa paa, isabihin, kung magmamahal ka, handa kang madumihan. Sasadsad ka sa lupa. Kung ayaw mong madumihan, huwag kang magmahal. Yun ang unang simbolo. Kaya ang ganda na yung tatlong simbolo ng pagbubuhos ng langis. No? Magmahal, handa kang sumadsad sa lupa, madumihan. Bigay mo ang lahat. God's love is extravagant love. At handa kang madurog at mabasag.
Ang ganda kung napanood niyo yung Jesus Christ Superstar. Diba yan yung unang confrontation ni Judas at ni Jesus. Tapos sinabi niyang, if an ointment brand new and expensive should have been saved for the poor. Diba? Basta yung try not to get worried. Yun naman ang sabi ni everything's all right. No?
Di niyo alam yan.
It could have been,
Di kayo nanonood ng Jesus
hindi nyo
Christ
na alam,
Superstar.
Jesus Christ Superstar, kailangan nyo panoorin.
Panoorin ninyo.
It could have raised maybe 300 pieces, 300 pieces of silver or more. People who are hungry, people who are starving, they matter more than your feet and hair. Na? Sagot naman si Jesus. Di ba? Sabi ni Jesus, surely you're not saying we have the resources to save the poor from their lot. There will be poor always pathetically struggling. Look at the good things you've got. Think while you still have me. Move while you still see me. You'll be lost and you'll be sorry when I'm gone. So, yun yung sagutan nila. Tapos,
Grabe, Mark.
everything's
Meryado mo.
all right.
Pinapanood mo ba yan araw-araw?
Pinapanood ko lagi yan. Oo nga. There will be poor always, pathetically struggling. Look at the good things you got. Basta, ang galing. No?
Yung 1970 version o may 1996?
Yung 1970 version.
1970.
Yung kay Ted Neely.
Si Ted Neely pa.
Tama. Hindi pa yung kay John Legend. Medyo. Pero maganda rin yung una, yung kay Ian Gillan. So, anyway. Yun. So, maganda ang Jesus Christ Superstar. And I like the questions na pinost din ni Judas doon. Yung ending. Kasi bakit daw dumating siya sa panahon na yun, no? Nung wala pang mass media. So, anyway, bago tayo magtapos.
Sandali, can I interject lang sandali? Kasi binanggit mo yun eh. Alam mo kasi, I also find it one of the most beautiful parts in one of the stories. Eh. It's like, there's a line there where Jesus says, kasi siyempre, si Simon the Pharisee, di ba, saying, alam ba nitong taong to kung anong klaseng babae yan, di ba? Di ba? Alam pa niya. And then he asks Simon the Pharisee, you think that, she loves, do you think that she is forgiven much? That's why she has loved much? Or is it because that she has been forgiven much that she now loves? Then he says, hindi nila maintindihan yung ganung klase. He says, okay, Simon, I'll give you a parable. Kwento. Dalawang tao may utang. Yung isa utang 1,000,000, yung isa 100. Na-condone yung debt. Sino sa palagay mo ang mas grateful? Sabi siya, no-brainer, di ba? Siyempre, yung nakalusot ng 1,000,000, napatawad na yung kanyang. Tapos sabi niya, kita mo tong babaeng to? Kanina pa siya. Kanina pa niya hinuhugasan yung aking paa, hinahalikan. Ako, pagpasok ko kanina, hindi mo man lang, di ba, inasikaso yung paa ko. Eto, siguro, malaking utang na napatawad. Di ba? She has loved much because she has been forgiven much. Binaliktad ni Jesus yung theology of grace. Diba? Kasi sinasabi natin, papatawarin lang ba ako kung mabait akong tao? Diba? Mamahalin lang ba ako kung mabait ako? Hindi. Nauna yung pagmamahal. Diba? Yun yung una. Father, forgive them. Yung una, nauuna. It's very much like that line in Cinderella, the Broadway play na hindi na lumabas ng 1960s. There's a Broadway play. You know the story of Cinderella, di ba? And the prince tells Cinderella, do I love you because you're beautiful? Or are you beautiful because I love you? That twist, di ba? Nauna yung pagmamahal. Nauna yung pag-ibig. Kaya gumaganda. Kaya may kagandahan. Anyway, sorry.
Nandyan talaga sa baliktaran. Nasa kabalintunahan ba? No? Andyan yung, parang magandang dala-dala natin yun, pag-uwi natin. Yung play of opposites. It's not one or the other. It's both, actually. Kaya maganda rin yung kunwari yung hegalong, di ba? Yung instrument natin na dalawa lang yung strings. Na yung sa taas yung drone, yung tong dududong dududong dududong. Ganun lang yung tunog nun. Pero yung tumatakbong melody, yun dun sa baba. So sumasabay yung static tsaka yung gumagalaw. So, tingin ko maganda siyang principle na nababaunin natin bago tayo umuwi. So, yung last, second to the last image na papakita ko. Kamay yan na dinikit namin sa salamin. No? So, marami siyang tinutuhog, kagaya ng matter and non-matter, kasi yung reflection naman is light, no? So it's non-matter. It also can be the sound of one hand clapping. Pero yung paradox nga ng kung anong nandyan at ang wala. No? Pero kinukonjure natin sa isip natin. Diyan nagsisimula yung growth. No? So kaya may nilagay akong halaman na tumutubo dyan. Pero yung halaman niya, actually nandyan lang din naman yun. No? Hindi lang natin masyadong napapansin. So kapag ginawa siguro natin ang pagninilay-nilay, yung pag-examine, kagaya nga ng sinabi ni Plato, the unexamined life is not worth living. I think we have to examine things. No? So, I think yun yung parting image natin. Although, may na-mention kasi kanina si Father na ayun na nga ang huli. No? O hindi na naisama yung iba. So, yun na nga. Kasi papakita ko lang sana yung rainbow. Kasi may rainbow. Kumbaga, yung works na to kasi sa taas, ililipat namin sa Tanay in the future. Tapos may lugar kami ron na pinauunlakan kami lagi ng rainbow. There was one afternoon that there were 8 rainbows. So, nakunan ko ng picture yun. So, dun sana ako mag-end. Pero okay na rin ito. Kung may mga, may mga tanong tayo siguro. Meron siguro akong isang tanong sa naging student mo. Kasi yung ayan, si David Bohm, sinundan namin si David Bohm dahil kay Krishnamurti. Kay Krishnamurti. Dahil kay Krishnamurti, di ba kaibigan siya ni Krishnamurti. No? Tapos dun kami ni Joy na introduce kay David Bohm. Tapos nalaman namin na ganun pala yung contribution niya sa quantum field theory. So, meron siya yung pilot wave theory to solve itong na-mention kanina ni Father na light as wave and particle. Pero yung image niya is that parang droplet of water na nakasakay sa wave. No? So, can you explain that part in relation to Heidegger? Kasi, di ba, unfolding universe in si David Bohm.
Basically, yung image kay David Bohm, yung particle, there's a particle, pero it rides on a wave. A pilot wave siya. Pero yung traditional kasi, yung traditional na interpretation ng quantum mechanics, a particle somehow becomes a wave. It hits the screen, detecting screen. At makita mo, wave siya. Pero nagsimula siya as particle. Kay David Bohm, it's always a particle. Yun yung kaibahan niya. Pero it rides on a wave. So, imbis na mag-scatter yung particles, pagdating sa screen, manifesting as a wave. So, paano nag-transition yung particle to wave? Yun ang weird doon, di ba? Hindi na-explain ng quantum physics yung in-between. Sabi niyo lang, basta there's strange happening in-between, pag nag-manifest, wave siya. Pero particle siya to start with. Pero kay David Bohm, no, it's a particle, pero liliko siya because it's guided by a wave. Then tatama siya in a weird part of the screen. Maraming beses, it forms a wave-like impression on the screen. Okay, so, kaya ganun yung kanyang, tawag dito yung paradigm in physics. It's explainable. Pero to explain that, you have to have a substructure. Saan nanggagaling yung waves in the first place, di ba? Bakit sumasakay din yung particle at saan nanggagaling yung wave? So there must be an order, an implicate order beneath physical reality where something is being manifested. Now, that order beneath cannot be detected by any instrument. Basta it manifests its presence to the ontic things, to the particles on top of the wave, which are us, physical matter. At doon niya minamanifest yung kanyang parang influence on the physical world. So the implicate order explicates. So parang meron siyang wave. So pag nasa implicate siya, it's concealing. If it explicates something into the material world, it's unconcealing. Okay, so Heidegger, concealment and unconcealment. So kaya nga sinabi ko in my thesis, this is the physical manifestation of Heidegger's being. Kasi multimodal ng being ni Heidegger. Si Heidegger has physis, so yung physis mo is multimodal din. There's a being of death, which is altogether different kind of being, or being towards death. It's all this parang mayroong explain metaphysical being of art, di ba? Yung sinasabi ni being of language. So, pero hindi yung focus ko, it's not on those things, which are really hard to explain Heidegger-wise, because art comes first, language comes first, di ba? It manifests to us. Bakit natin nakikita na yung isang bagay is art? Because there is art, there's ontological art. That's why we see, pag nakita natin yung nature, nagagandaan tayo sa mountains because it's ontological. It's not something that people created. Parang it manifests through us. Diba? Ngayon, part and parcel, tinatawag yun sa thesis ko, but my thesis is really through Heidegger's philosophy of physics, Heidegger's philosophy of nature. Heidegger talks about quantum mechanics in one of his books, really enough. So, ang sinasabi ni Heidegger is very much what sinasabi ni Heraclitus. Nature conceals itself, then it reveals itself. Yun din sinasabi ni Bohm. There's concealment in nature through the implicate order na hindi natin nakikita, pero it explicates itself through quantum phenomena. And quantum phenomena culminates through physical phenomena. Naging Newtonian na siya on a macro level. Diba? Pero it's always, ang consequence nun, na wala sa standard quantum mechanics, yung consequence ng kanyang theory is everything is entangled. So, a motion of one particle is entangled by other particles. Kaya, entanglement in normal quantum physics is very specific. Kunyari may isang photon na nag-explode, entangled yung photons doon sa explosion na yun. Pero ang sinasabi ni Bohm, no, entanglement is primordial in the universe. Kung nasan ka man, a particle moving in this direction is influenced by particles around it. So nasa equation yan, yung Bohmian potential, nandun yun. So yun ang difference. So basically, for Bohm's system to exist, or for Bohm's paradigm to exist, you must have concealment and concealment. You must have that part of nature that hides itself and that exposes itself and manifests itself, and then mawawala agad and then hides again. So ganun yung ano niya, yung meron kang line dito, yung wave mo explicates, implicate, nag-implicate siya continuously. So yun yung kanyang parang paradigm of nature, very similar to Heideggerian paradigm.
Yung isa na lang na question ko lang, maiksi lang. Kasi in-explain mo sa pilot wave, di ba? Na yung effect niya na interference, yung pattern.
Yes.
Pero, di ba nagko-collapse nga na magiging particle siya. There are times na pag may observer, nagiging hindi na wave pattern ang lumalabas, kundi particle pattern. Paano nangyayari sa Bohmian?
Okay, so what you're describing is the collapse of the wave function, di ba? Meron kang may particle ka, tapos, in double slit experiment, pag ino-observe mo yung particle, magbe-behave siya sa particle. Weird, no? Pag ino-observe mo siya, magbe-behave siya sa particle. Pag hindi mo siya in-observe, pag wala kang detector ng proton, mag-manifest siya sa wave. So yun ang weird doon. So parang ang sinasabi nila, if you observe the particle, you will collapse a particle into an observable behavior. The wave function collapses to a particle behavior. In the Bohmian system, there is no collapse of the wave function. Kaya yun yung difference, no? There's no collapse of the wave function in the Bohmian system kasi yung particle does not collapse. It changes direction by itself. It changes direction by itself. Yun yung hindi makapagpaniwala yung mga tao. Paano siya ni-change? Kasi may force underneath reality that makes it change. A force that's unmeasurable by any measuring instrument. Kaya yun yung thing. There's something beneath our reality. There's something beneath our reality that makes it change. Ang ginagawa ng normal quantum mechanics, ginagawa nilang statistics. Hindi, statistics lang yan. Basta nagiging wave siya. Yun ang explanation ng normal, standard explanation of quantum mechanics by normal physicists. Pero no, Bohm said there's a force beneath our reality, not detectable by any physical instruments, that makes the particle turn by itself. It's the nature of the universe. There's something beneath. So, ang sinabi niya pa, there might be something beneath that something. it can be levels of beneathness, if there's such a word.
It's like turtles all the way down.
Yes, exactly. So who are we to say that we are living in this reality that we completely know everything? Kasi we don't know what's beneath. For example, Word, di ba? You type something on a Word application, nakita mo lang yung word, di ba? Pero there's something beneath that word application. It's a hexadecimal program, may compiler sa ilalim, tapos may machine language sa ilalim. So yung nakikita lang natin, yung ito. Pero there's a lot beneath, di ba? Pero science assumes, especially si Bohr, actually Bohr is aware of it, di ba? Bohr is aware of it, pero he denies it. Huwag natin pasukan niya. Alam ko there's something going strange underneath nature, pero huwag natin pasukan niya. Let's just mathematize what's being exposed to us. So there's no collapse of the wave function for David Bohm, and there's no Schrodinger's cat for David Bohm. So the mystery of Schrodinger's cat, either patay o buhay yung cat, kasi marirelease siya o hindi marirelease. Pero ang supreme consequence nun, kaya on the level, parang mas maraming physicists, yung mas practical-minded na naniniwala kay David Bohm. Pero they have to accept, pag naniniwala kay David Bohm, that there's something beneath. Yun yung isang i-accept mo. Okay, hindi strange si David Bohm kasi wala siyang Schrodinger's cat at there's no collapse of the wave function. Pero to accept that, you must accept that there's something beneath reality that we cannot measure.
Walang
So,
may superposition ba kay Bohm?
There's an apparent superposition.
Kahit kay Bohm.
Kahit kay Bohm. Kasi ang ginawa ni Bohm, okay, he transformed the Schrodinger's equation. Diba? The Schrodinger's equation is the dynamic representation of quantum phenomena. And there's, yun yung, pag mineasure mo siya, the measurement problem, hindi na Schrodinger's equation yan. Hindi na siya wave. Ang ginawa niya, in-extract niya from the Schrodinger's equation, yung quantum potential, yung something that makes the particle move coming from beneath reality, na hindi natin na-observe. In-extract niya sa Schrodinger's equation. Marami nagulat, paano mo na-extract yung quantum potential na yan? Pero it's just a rearrangement of the Schrodinger's equation. Wala siyang binago. So the Schrodinger's equation is not violated. The Heisenberg's principle is not violated. It's just stated in a different way para palabasin yung quantum potential o the Bohm potential, which is very strange because yun yung nagpapakita ng force coming from beneath physical reality. So yun yun. Yun yung ginawa niyang kakaiba. And it's an accepted alternative interpretation of quantum mechanics. Hindi siya dismissed kasi it's proven equation-wise at marami na ngayon na pinuprove si David Bohm at marami na siyang followers ngayon. So it's one of the 5 different interpretations of quantum mechanics. Yung kanyang, and it's the closest to Heidegger's ontology, I think.
Ang galing, ano?
Naintindihan
May work
ninyo?
ako sa taas na may wave tsaka particle. Inspired yung kay David Bohm. Ano, yung maliit na trabaho na may pebble na tumatalon-talon sa wave na. So,
Ayun yan.
yun.
Actually, yung image rin niya, yung maliit na pebble na tumatalon, yun yung very Bohmian yun. Very Bohmian. Yung image na gano'n.
Thank you. Ano name?
Jonald Morales.
Jonald Morales. Thank you. Baka may tanong pa kayo.
Good afternoon po. So I would, since my friend is shy to ask the question, I'd like to ask the question na lang. Asking for a friend, literal na asking for a friend. There was this discussion earlier in the discussion with regard to how words and numbers are essentially the languages of science and mathematics, but the word is much more comprehensible and understandable.
Sorry po, ako po talaga yun. In the discussion earlier was some scripture about how the word was in the beginning and the word was with us and the word was with God. And parang napag-isipan ko po yung semantics of that na mentioned in the discussion is that math is the universal language and the scientific language is more describable and more accurate with its communication, but it's also more complicated, a bit more niche, kumbaga. So I wanted to ask, do you think that the reason why the semantics used in that scripture is the word, even though numbers are more accurate, is because the word was supposed to be for man, to be more understandable?
And math is not meant for us to be understood? So is that...
Parang ano po kasi, in my experience po with math and with numbers, it's a bit more, it takes people time to understand more, while word is a bit more accessible for people to understand. Does my question make sense?
No, kasi, well, ako ba yun yan?
Opo.
Oh, sige, sige. Short lang. I don't see it as a case of word versus number. No? Kasi kahit yung pagbibilang ay isang wika. No? At sa katunayan, sa iba't ibang kultura, ibang-iba yun. Merong dozen, merong 10, di ba? Kung bilangan, di ba? Iba-iba. So, meron din kahulugan ang 7, ang 10. Di ba? Kasi kahit yung pagbibilang ay isang uri ng wika, no? ng pagbibigay o paghahanap o pagtuklas sa kahulugan sa mundo. No? Kaya hindi sa akin hindi opposed yung number versus word.
And you know that the word was opposed. Di ba? The word was not understood. It's still not understood.
Kasi yung mga dalubhasa sa salita, no? Let's say mga philosophers, sina Parmenides, sina Plato. Sino pa nga bang isa sa pirin? Pythagoras. Sila mismo nagsasabi na yung world ng numbers, sacred. So, you have two domains. No? May word, tsaka may numbers. Pareho silang visual codes. Diba? Tools para magkaintindihan. Pero tama, medyo mas specialized kasi yung numbers. Ang question yata ay, kaya ba sinabing in the beginning was the word, pero actually yung ibig ba niya sabihin yung numbers din? Yun ba yung question?
Word. In the beginning was number.
Bakit ang word nagsasabi na parang mas sacred pa ang number, no? Parang may, ganun ba ang sinasabi ng philosophers? Kasi kay Plato, And yet, meron siyang nakapaskil dun sa, ano, di ba, sa the academy na. Let those, yung geometry, no? Those who do not know geometry don't enter this place. Parang ganun, ano. So, or may link ba ang words sa numbers? Kasi, kaya ako napunta rin sa question na yan, dahil ang words at images, may alitan din yan. Kay Plato ko rin matitrace, ano, kasi si Plato nagdududa sa arts. No? Sa arts parang marites lang or something. Kaya nagkaroon siya ng mimesis at yung forming sa taas. Ang mimesis is we're just copying everything that we see. But what we're copying is an imperfect version of the chair, of the dog, or ano, perfect form of the chair or the dog of the human being. Ano. So, andun sa world of forms. No? So, lagi siyang may duda sa arts. At namana yan hanggang sa, until even the time of modernism. No, no 19, yung modernism ng abstract expressionists na namana rin natin. No, so, may konting alitan ang words, art, let's say, of visual, the visuals. Or actually, Plato was talking about poetry rin kasi he was a frustrated playwright. Di ba? Pero ang numbers, parang may respect talaga sa numbers among philosophers. So I don't know if they consider it as separate or kapatid. Hindi ko alam.
Actually, sa liberal arts curriculum, di ba? Math. Para bang, at the time of the Greeks those philosophers, that was the form of knowledge. Baliktad ngayon eh. STEM na nga, di ba? Para sa atin, STEM is to equip us for jobs and, engineering and other things. Nabaliktad. For them, they saw something spiritual about geometry. Anyway, but I will not, as Momo mentioned a while ago, but even numbers have to be expressed in language. So that's important too. I don't think you can sort of say that one is more accessible than the other. They strive to reflect or to understand the truth, di ba? Some masusukat. Pero may bagay di rin masusukat eh. Pwede mong lagyan ng tape measure. Yung iba, hindi lahat.
Isa pang ang question yan, Father. Kasi, do numbers exist? Isa pang tanong yan. We have instances that we count. Pero the number 1, number 2, number 3. Number 2 is just we see a lot of pairs. Dalawang mata, dalawang tenga, dalawang nostrils. So, sabihin natin, 2 yan. Yung mga Trinity, maraming tatluhan. 3 yan. But there are just instances. Are there really numbers? No? So, kaya yung question kanina, are they discovered or invented? Sistema lang ba yan na na-create ng tao dahil may kakayahan siya? Or nandyan na ba yan?
Naku, epistemology, ontology.
Hello po. Hi, Sir Mark.
Hi, Kristen.
So, I actually have a question in extension to that. I was actually thinking about the conversation with mathematics, the concept of zero. So, my question is actually to physicist. So, a form of abstract consciousness. Numbers in and of themselves are abstract. I mean, this is what I thought. I can imagine one cup or one item or something concrete that's one, singular. But I cannot imagine the number one as itself or as it is outside of the concrete representative. So is math merely abstract and not concrete at all?
Kasi sabi mo lang, di ba, like the number 2. So, as you said, is associated with
Ano?
tangible that you can
Yes.
see, di ba? But if you it's an abstraction in a way, right? It's a concept.
Yes, and is zero absolute or is zero nothing at all?
Ayan, ako. Balik tayo dun sa tanong na is there nothing? Di ba?
Well,
Mahirap
even
yun.
the concept of nothing is technically something. So is there nothing? Yes.
Yeah.
So paradox na naman tayo.
Yes.
When you say there is nothing, there is
Sabi raw, there's no region in the universe where there is nothing. According to Parmenides, sabi rin ni Lawrence Krauss. Yan, parang laging meron dun eh. We just don't see it. There are forces in every region or waves or something. Kasi hindi naman natin nakikita lang eh. So, nothing. Imagine that we've come up with the concept of nothing. Taong gumawa nun, di ba? Wala namang wala eh. Di ba?
Actually, I wanted to extend that thought. If you think about it, almost everything is more of like a product of the human machination, like the human imagination. It just extends it to concrete depending on how it's applied. But then, extending like the topic of nothingness, does it also extend to like the I'm not saying I'm an atheist or anything like that. Does the language of numbers or does the conversation of numbers, does it also extend to the question of the God question? If there is a zero or if there is no zero, is there a
Nako.
God, is there no God at all?
Well, from the point of view of the faith, from the point of view of a believer, right? It doesn't have to be zero, just even any number. 1, 2. Therefore, God.
So is zero God or is God one? So I don't, well, is there actually a concrete answer to these questions at all? Sige po, sorry.
Kasi ano mo na.
There's this physicist mathematician, Roger Penrose. I think he was the latest one to have won the Nobel Prize. I don't know, last year or something. To answer your question, coming from Roger Penrose. So there are three worlds according to Roger Penrose. There's the Platonic world, there's the mental world, and there's the physical world. So yung mental world sa atin yun. And he says that those three worlds are distinct. So mathematics is a world by itself. For example, humans become extinct a million years from now. Mathematics stays the same. Okay, so what he says is that we're explorers in both worlds. We explore the Platonic world, we explore the physical world. Tapos may intersection yon. Tapos yung ating mental processes, sometimes natutugma niya yung Platonic world. Pero marami siyang things na hindi na predict. For example, what is the square root of negative 1? Square root of negative 1 is an imaginary number kasi it doesn't exist, di ba? It doesn't exist. Well, 1 times 1 is 1, negative 1 times negative 1 is 1. So seemingly we have invented a term para pag you multiply I times I, it becomes negative 1. Pero in ordinary numbers, the square root of negative 1 does not exist. That's why it's called an imaginary number, right? Tama, Father, di ba? It's an imaginary number. Pero in quantum mechanics, imaginary numbers are vital. And that was just discovered later on. Because imaginary numbers were invented in the 17th century just to answer, can we say there's an answer to the square root of negative 1? O sige, let's invent something. Let's say I is the square root of negative 1. Okay? But later on, after 300 years, yung pala talaga yung takbo ng quantum mechanics, it cannot operate without i's, without imaginary numbers. So there's this landscape of mathematics that we don't know intuitively, that we're exploring whenever math concepts come up. We see fractals, we see imaginary numbers, we see Mandelbrot sets. They appear because we explore that world through our knowledge of math and we become drawn into that world. So when humans cease to exist, math is still there.
So math is before
Math is Platonic, it's there. So it's just there before the existence of time, or it's just there. No, it's not created by us. Kasi Husserl, okay, Husserl is a famous philosopher, diba? He's a phenomenologist. Ngayon, he said that numbers are psychologically invented by man. Tapos may umatake sa kanya, there's one German philosopher, Schelling, he attacked Husserl, heaven and earth, parang sabi niya, even if the earth disappears, even after heaven and hell is gone, math is still there. So inatake niya si Husserl. Mali yung concept mo of numbers are not psychological creations by humans. It's always there. So ang ginawa ni Husserl, phenomenology siya, doon siya sumikat. Phenomenology, naging estudyante niya si Heidegger, etc. So, pero tinanggap niya yung criticism ni Schelling, tapos tinransform niya into something else. And tinransform niya in a way na honors yung criticism sa kanya. Ibig sabihin, tinanggap niya yung criticism. So, gumawa siya ng phenomenological study wherein he's trying to mathematize in a way the phenomenology of the world. Kaya naging stepping stone ni Heidegger Husserl because of that. So, di ba? So, anyway, basically, math is already there. Mathematical objects are not creations of psychology. It's a priori, di ba? Ngayon, ang sinasabi ni Kant, is synthetic a priori possible? So, what is analytic a priori? Analytic a priori is 1 plus 1 equals 2. Ba? Kasi, beforehand, alam natin, what is synthetic a posteriori? Fire is hot. Because after experience, you get burned. Pero ang tanong ni Kant, is synthetic a priori possible? Kung masasagot mo yon with a yes or a no, then philosophy is possible. Kaya it's related to how the Platonic world is real, our world is real. Ngayon, in those three worlds, may intersection siya. Kasi the physical world follows also the mathematical world, diba? And our mental world can follow and do things in the physical world and the mathematical world. It's all interrelated. Pero they're independent spheres. For example, circumference over diameter, sabi ni Father, it's pi. Pero 3.14, hindi nag-end yun. There's a publication group. Nag-publish sila 3 volumes of pi. Ang laman lang ng librong yon, yung numbers ng pi na hindi nag-end. Okay, at one point, after nung 3rd volume, nagre-repeat yung 7. My God, ano ba? Rational ba yung pi? Nagre-repeat. Kasi, puro numbers yun 3.1415 for 3 volumes. Tapos at the end of the 3rd one, ni-repeat mo. Tapos biglang 7, tapos naging 9. Okay, nakinga sila. Irrational pala talaga yung pi. Kasi once na nag-repeat yung numbers to infinity, rational na siya, di ba? It can be expressed in a fraction. Pero after yung dami ng 7s, nagkaroon na 9, irrational siya. So yung ganong behavior of numbers, it's Platonic. It's never invented by us. It's something already there. So, to link it with God, it's up to you. Okay, and the Logos, last, the Logos. Kasi there's this, yung tanong kanina, the Logos kasi is a concept of Heraclitus na parang in-apply din in the Bible later on. The Logos is the order behind things. It's like Dharma in the Eastern traditions. Pero the Logos, yun ang nagpanganak sa language. Kaya language is primordial. Kasi it takes itself from the Logos. Kung walang basic interrelation yung mundo or universe before, then language will not come up. Kasi the primordial language, yung sinasabi ni Doc Barbaza, it harkens to the law. Kaya nagkaroon ng language kasi may order in the world. There's an order behind things. Kaya nagkaroon ng language, kaya naipanganak yung language. Kaya language is primordial because logos is primordial. So, yun lang yung kanina.
Okay.
Yeah. That makes it halos pareho with math. Parang ano.
Not different, but in the same league as math.
Sige, pwede na yan.
Thank you.
Discussion later. Okay, meron pa ba? Takot ako magtanong. Ay, may isa pa. Diba, Father, ito yung gusto nyo about Areté, being interdisciplinary art, encouraging this
Hello?
kind of discussion?
Hello.
Ay, sige, sige.
I would like to more or less preface my question by saying that this isn't coming from a place of confusion where I don't have my own personal views on this. But I feel like this is a very interesting question to ask the three of you, which is, earlier in the conversation, we talked about, say, how in the past, infinity and nothingness were, in a sense, diametrically opposed. And then here comes Heidegger, who would say that the presence and the being are one and the same with nothingness, which in itself is also an infinite, correct? But I think for me, the problem is that while we do have practical uses of notions of infinity and notions of nothingness, why is it that it seems to be a very common, almost historical behavior how in each generation, nothingness and infinity are taken to metaphorical, philosophical, and symbolic significance? If ontological historicity is to be believed, and if Heidegger is to be believed, then that we haven't really solved the question of being, but here comes Heidegger, I'll solve the problem of being for you, yada, yada, yada. But if that process, if ontological historicity is to be believed, why do we still find ourselves reiterating, making new metaphorical significances for nothingness and infinity? In a sense, at least to the physicist, to the artist, and to the philosopher, fundamentally, I think the question is, why is it to this day we continue to struggle for our own being vis-a-vis infinity? Francois Leruel, the proponent of non-philosophy, says that the problem is that philosophy can only ever understand man in prefixes. The Ubermensch, the psychic man, the political animal. There's always a prefix to man. And it goes back to what you said, how we never cease to compare ourselves with the divine, right? But I also think that this doesn't seem like a natural condition. At least from my own perspective, it's our own philosophy that condemns us to always compare ourselves with the divine, the incomprehensible, the unsplittable. But we always treat it as if we can split it. Why do we still struggle for that kind of being? And why do we continue to look for it in philosophy if philosophy itself has never answered this question, even with Plato, even with Heidegger, even with the postmodernists? That's all. Thank you.
Comprehensive exam. Would you like us?
Why do we do philosophy? In other words?
Philosophy.
Yeah, parang comprehensive exam, no? Yung kasabi. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, no? But I remember my mentor, the late Jesuit Father Gerhard Hefner, no, in Munich, no? He said, the one philosopher that Heidegger hated the most is Plato. Kasi nga, this Plato nga, split niya yung ano, di ba? The intelligible world and the sensible world. Kasi for Heidegger, contra Plato, contra Kant, nothing stands behind the phenomena. No? The phenomena, yun na yun. That's the whole package. You know? I can go home and tell my wife, you're just a phenomenon. You're just an appearance. No, but I cannot tell Father Jett now that what I'm seeing is just an appearance. This is Father Jett in flesh and blood, and also in his mind and everything. No? So that's the Heidegger invento lang daw yung kay Kant na the thing in itself. Sabi ni Heidegger, bakit mag-iimbento si Kant ng the thing in itself that hides behind phenomena? And then that's to tell us we don't have access to it. Niloloko ba niya tayo? Parang, that's why art, you don't say that you stand before David of Michelangelo. No? You won't say that the art stands behind the marble. No. The beauty of David, the marble is part of it. You don't, walang split between the material and the spiritual. The whole phenomenon comes to you. And that is art. No? Hindi accidental yung bam 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 ng Fifth Symphony ni Beethoven. No? It's part of that creation. No? So I was thinking kanina, in the question earlier kanina, do you know our coordinates right now? No, does anyone experience the coordinates right now? I just checked, no? 14.641487 north and 121.0757. Is anyone experiencing that we are in that? No one, no? Diba? We don't experience, but we experience that I am near my house is just 1.6 kilometers. My house is like 20 kilometers from here. We experience near and far. No? That is concrete experience. No? Mathematics is an abstraction. No? Any one of you knows the exact measurement of your dining table at home? I guess no one. When do you measure the dimensions of your table? When you need a tablecloth. Then you measure it. If you want to transfer your table to another room, you measure it. Otherwise, the table is the place of gathering of your loved ones. That's the table. No? And that, we're not saying that. So actually, you know what concrete and abstract means. Mathematics is the abstraction. You abstract the numbers. The concrete literally means concrescere, to grow with. No? So our human experience of the table is the concrete experience. But we're not saying that abstractions are inferior. No. Every time I take a plane, I ride a plane, I'm always thinking my life depends on the mathematics of the physicists and the engineers. I hope they did their math correct, otherwise this plane will crash. No? Totoo din yung math, totoo. But, you know, there's a place for computation, for calculation, for mathematics. But in the end, it's our human experience that is concrete. No? Human. No? Near. Sabi nga, near and far are not scientific. No? Scientifically, there's nothing near or far. It's just two, di ba? Between 2 points. There's nothing near or far in science. But in human experience, we do experience near and far. We won't say that's not scientific and it's not real. No, it is real. It is concrete. And I think the art is what allows us to experience what is most human.
I don't know if I got your question correctly, but what I sensed at least was the question: why do we have to keep? Why do you have to keep knowing? Why? In my, even in theology, let's say, we know that God, by definition, if God is God, then perhaps God is unknowable. But why do we still want to know? What drives us? Why must we speak about the unspeakable? Why do we try even? Diba? From the point of view of science, parang mas madali kasi we're driven by anomalies. We have paradigms and we know that physical reality transcends those paradigms, those theories. Diba? Even now, yung James Webb Telescope, di ba? Nandun na ngayon. They're exploring the origin of the universe. And now it's calling to question our theories. Diba? Probably there is another force. We've only thought about 4. 4 kinds of forces. Then maybe there's a 5th, a 6th. Because they do not fit the theory, the framework that we've invented. The reality is greater. And that sort of drives us somehow, di ba? We can give up and say, ayoko na lang kasi kakapikon. I'll never get to the finish line. Parang asymptote, di ba? Infinity rin. It just approaches but never really gets to touch. But we still do. I think that's part of the mystery of who we are. It's the black hole parang beckons us to get to know it even better. Is it because we're going to become better persons? No, hindi lang. It's just because it's good to know. Yeah. I think sometimes it's just good to know. Even if we know we will never parang capture the whole physical reality pa lang yan, ha? Wala pa yung God at yung iba pang hiwaga ng buhay. So anyway, so same to with art. I think there is never an obra maestra that's it. Diba? In other words, hindi pa tapos si Mark.
Walang katapusan. Ah, yung it's good to ask because we benefit from it. As human beings, I think it's part of the human exercise to ask questions. And these are questions na laging nandyan. Parang may versions lang siya eh. Kasi tinatanong na yun ng mga pre-Socratics hanggang sa modernist and postmodern. Ganun pa rin naman ang tanong nila, ibang version lang, di ba? Tapos parang, alin ang nauna? Yung extraction ba? O nagkaroon ng extraction dahil sa may naunang material na mga nag-exist? No? So, hindi natin alam eh. Kasi yung na-extract ng tao at yung nagawa niyang abstraction, parang napaka-powerful yata na nag-explain na kung bakit tayo nandito. Pero hindi pa rin natin alam kung gaano katotoo yun. And I don't think we'll ever know. I think I've come to that point where I'm comfortable with the question. Because there's something else na pwede mong gawin. Well, at least on my part, may action eh. Maliban dito sa mga questions, yung concretization na sinasabi kanina, sa art kasi medyo nako-concretize mo yung question. No? So at least medyo na-express mo. No? Pero it's not to say na sinasagot mo. Kundi nilalagay mo lang dyan para tanungin ulit ng mga susunod na henerasyon. No? Kasi actually that's the main question. The number one question is, saan tayo galing? Saan tayo papunta? O meron bang Diyos? Na yun talaga ang number one question. May versions din ng opposing views tungkol doon. At parehong formidable yung sinasabi ng bawat panig. Pero ang pagiging tao ganun eh. And actually, believing is a choice. No? Kasi kung maniniwala ka lang dahil sa, yun nga, you're thrown into the world. Di ba? Kay Heidegger, may mga facts na kung saan ka. Pinanganak ka ng may pangalan ka na, may magulang ka, andyan na yung society. Hindi mo naman alam yun eh. Tapos doon ka, so may relihiyon na nagdo-dominate. Pero aabot ka sa point na magka-question ka. And then if you start believing again, that's because of choice. At actually, yung laki ng role ng choice dun sa dalawang yun. At kung ang choice mo naman eh, pumipili ka lang dahil alam mo na yun ang pagiging tao. Hindi dahil sa tama yung isa, tama tong isa. Kundi ganun ang pagiging tao eh. You can either be an atheist or a believer and you can live a good life according to your principles. Pero pipili ka pa rin, di ba? Ganun. Ang hirap ng stance ng agnostic. Eh. Although I can call myself one. Pero I was so enthralled with in beauty ng expressions ng belief ng God. And I like the question. And I might someday really be a true believer because I choose to. Ganun. Pero at this stage, hindi ko pa alam. Ganon. Pero, kaya nga mahirap. Pero at least may art, di ba? Na i-express ko yung ganon. I don't know if that answers the question. I think it's just part of the human exercise. Wait. Why is it the main struggle?
question of, sorry. It's almost as if, yun nga, within the struggle of, at least when it comes to nothing in infinity. And you're right, it is best that we continue to ask this question, we continue to develop, and of course, to not be cynical about it. Let's just say that there aren't any forces above trying to dictate what man should ideally be as a work or whatever. But I think that, why is it like that? Why is the question of being not a walk in the park, but a struggle? It's not the question of our own physical, actual experience of living through life, but the very question of our own being, as it were. Why do we always feel that we're juxtaposed with that divine? Is it something that we condemn ourselves to? Do we put this struggle upon ourselves? And of course, you say, in a sense, it might make us better, more holistic people, and maybe sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it could make us terrorists. Sometimes it could make us tyrants. Sabi nga po na, the Nazi scientists, I think Slavoj Žižek said this, that there's a very strange intersection between mysticism and atrocities committed. How a lot of religions that offer this kind of asceticism, this detachment that there is a world beyond, and everything in this material world is more or less inconsequential, detach yourself from the present, then I have an excuse to do something awful. I think my problem is, I guess, is that do we struggle for our own being in a rather selfish way? Do we seek to understand their position because we aim for something? Or do we struggle just because we struggle?
Sabi ko kay Father Jett, di ba hanggang 4 lang tayo?
Ay,
No?
sorry.
Ano ba to? Infinite ba to? Pero salamat sa, siguro may lang, no? Yung struggle, no? Ang masasabi ko lang, ito paniniwala ko lang, no? Lahat ng bagay na maganda ay pinaghihirapan, no? Every beautiful thing arises out of struggle, no? And even if you look at nature, no? Yung evolution, no? Parang you can also see nature as a story of struggle, no? To get us here, no? Nothing beautiful, nothing great was just born out of doing nothing, no? Yun lang, na pinaghihirapan ang lahat ng bagay na dakila at maganda, no? Kaya tingin ko din yung pagdadalang tao, halimbawa, 9 na buwan, no? Paano kung dumating yung isang araw, may teknolohiya na tayo na pwede mo nang i-bypass yung 9 months, no? Di ba? Yung career mo hindi masisira, no? Oo nga, meron na. Pero kung maging na yan, yung normal at accessible as a drug in ganun ka. Anong klaseng buhay ng tao o kaya yung kaugnayan ng nanay dun sa anak kapag hindi siya dumaan doon sa 9 na buwan, no? Hindi ba ang lahat ng pagluluwal, every birthing is a struggle, no? And I think Mark can tell us that every work of art, to give birth a work of art is a lot of struggle, no? With your own demons, no? Kami din, pag nagsusulat, di ba? Natapos ko ba itong thesis na to? Hindi, no? Lahat ng bagay na dakila at maganda ay pinaghihirapan.
Maraming umiikot-ikot sa aking doon sa tanong mo. Naisip ko lang kung masagot natin yung mga tanong, para sa anong gagawin kaya natin? Masaya na tayo? Relax na tayo? Ha? Tapos na? Pwede nang mamatay. I think, well, sir, first of all, let's be careful about religion, no, and faith. And certainly, the malpractice of religion is the cause for some people getting disillusioned. I call that malpractice, perversion. Diba? And they do not help at all. But I'm just reminded of Kierkegaard and his line in the Gospel of Sufferings. he wrestled with that passage in Matthew 11. Come to me, all you who labor and are burdened, and I will give you rest. Diba? My burden is light. So, how can that be? How can suffering be light? Diba? And then he goes on to say that, I think something about if faith, if you believe because things are clear and things are, if you believe because life is nice, that is not faith. Faith happens when reason, sagacity I think was the term, when yung pag naitulak ka na wala kang sagot, hindi mo talaga maintindihan. Then he goes on to say this line, faith sees best in the dark. It's interesting because we started with light, di ba? Which is true. Sabi ko, I cannot believe in facts. Di ba? You do not believe in facts. They're incontrovertible. You do not believe that the sun will rise tomorrow. Diba? You believe in certain things that pwedeng mali. And you choose, as Mark said, you make a choice. Para bang the condition for the possibility of faith is doubt, is darkness. That's where faith is born. You make a choice. And some people choose wala, di ba? They say wala. God is zero. Or some will say, no, maybe God is real. And I choose this. Diba? That doesn't mean that, ako nga, I have many atheist friends and they lead very good lives. Just a few days ago, we had a dialogue here within ako and an atheist, you know. Pero I think at some point, in the nature of faith, is that here you are faced with with something much greater, and you make a choice. And the condition for making that choice is blurred. The blurredness. Hindi malinaw. And then you choose. Sorry, in wedding homilies, I tell, alam mo ba, siniseryoso mo ba yung for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health? Paano kung magkasakit yan? Hindi mo alam di ba? Ito na ba yung aking papakasalan? Hindi mo alam And yet, you take that leap, what Kierkegaard calls this leap of faith, di ba? You take that leap. Why? Is it suicidal? But you still do. And you say, no matter what happens, magkasakit ka man o hindi, mamahalin kita. Diba? So again, we have a sense of this parang forever, despite our finitude. Faith sees best in the dark.
Ang ganda, no? Actually, kung mag-quote kasi sila ng Kierkegaard, tapos ako mag-quote ng John Lennon. So,
Okay lang! John Lennon.
may sinabi siyang, God is a concept by which we measure our pain. Na, although pinasundan niya yun, I don't believe in ganito, I don't believe in ganyan. In the end, I only believe in me. Tapos Yoko and me. Pero, ang ganda ng sinabi ni Father na kung God is wala, zero, or God is infinite. No? At doon tayo nagsimula sa kawalan at sa walang hanggan. Ano? At sa gitna nun, tayong mga maliliit, nagtatanong, ano nga ba? So, tingin ko, yun nga, wala namang sagot. May dalawang sagot. Bahala ka na. Pero pareho namang maganda eh. Nagagandahan ako sa pareho kasi doon naman sa mga atheist, ang gusto ko yung audacity ba? Yung lakas ng loob na hindi, kami lang yung nandito. Tapos yung sama rin ng loob na iniwan niyo kami. Na, why is there suffering in the world? Yun ang mga tanong, di ba? Parang, bakit naghihirap mga tao sa Gaza? Yung ganun ba? Parang, bakit walang katapusan tong injustices sa mundo? Actually, the main question din is justice. Bakit walang justice? May kaparanggot tayo, pero yung mas fair, yung fairness ba? Ganun. So, anyway, nasagot ko na rin kanina in a way na parang, pero I think, yun. Yun na yung masasabi ko.
May mas.
Ngayon lang kami nagkaroon ng 3-hour ArtSpeak. I think this is a very unusual, well, obviously conversation. It crossed different ideas and faith, and but everything quite relevant, I would say. So thank you, Father Jett and Dr. Barbaza. Biglang naging doctor. Momok, of course, as colleagues, and of course with Mark Justiniani, who has graciously shared his projects. We've been having good feedback. So we're ending in 2 months. Less than 2 months. July 6 is the last day. So please tell your friends. I hope you have all visited the exhibit and come back, and maybe after this conversation, more questions have been raised, probably not answered. No? So thank you for joining us today. We have some snacks outside, and maybe you'd like to continue with the conversation.